in prison. I develop mechas to break out. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176, 500,000, sell it to me. Fuck, who is this great player? He got the first gold equipment in just 3 hours after the server was launched. He must be cheating. Maybe he is a beta tester. He has some inside information. Nonsense. I participated in the beta test. At that time, he was still Pony Ma from Tencent. He led us to defeat the first big boss and got the first gold equipment in the game. This guy's ID is Mechas Zhou Yang. Doesn't Mechas give money? Many players talked about it. At the same time, someone immediately shouted on the public channel, 20,000 yuan to buy this gold equipment. As soon as he finished speaking, someone shouted, 20,000 yuan. You are so embarrassed. This is the first gold equipment in the game. I will pay 50,000. In the cemetery, Zhang Wang held the staff in his hand and was incredulous. This is a level 10 necromancer staff with 3 equipment special effects, including an important skill of resurrection of the undead, which can revive skeletons. The magic damage itself is also very high. In the early stage, it can be called a magic weapon. At this time, the system prompts kept ringing, and people kept applying to add Zhang Wang as a friend. Seeing the news on the public channel, Zhang Wang's eyes suddenly lit up, and he quickly returned to the novice village and started to set up a stall in the center of the square. At this time, someone had already set up a stall here, but they were selling whiteboard equipment of a few levels. Even so, a piece of equipment also sold for several gold coins, because the equipment in the game was too difficult to drop. Zhang Wang set it to display, and then shouted, "Who wants the first gold equipment?" As soon as this was said, it instantly attracted everyone present. Fuck, is this true? Many people exclaimed, ran over to take a look, and found that it was indeed a gold level staff. Damn, it's really gold level equipment. That Mechas Zhou Yang must be you, right? Big brother, where did you get it? These attributes are simply abnormal: high magic damage, 3 special effects, and 1 special effect skill. Whoever gets it will be amazing. With the difficulty of this game, it will take at least a month for gold equipment to be dropped. I heard that Jay Chou organized 2,000 fans to fight the Wild Wolf King in the novice village, and they only got a piece of black iron level equipment. It's amazing. During the internal test, the first Wild Wolf King also dropped a piece of gold equipment, which means the drop rate in the public beta has been lowered again. How much will this sell for? 50,000. It's more than 50,000. It's the first piece of gold equipment, and it has an advantage period of at least 1 month. 50,000 is really cheap. At least 100,000. Everyone talked about it, with envy on their faces. At this time, a soldier stepped forward and said to Zhang Wang, "Brother, my boss sent me a message. I want to buy your staff for 100,000 yuan. If you are willing, you can transfer the money now. You want to buy the first gold equipment in the game for 100,000 yuan. Are you kidding? 150,000 yuan. Brother, sell the staff to me. I will never let you suffer a loss." A shadow elf mage came out and said. Zhang Wang clenched his fists excitedly. 150,000 yuan, plus the 80,000 yuan he saved. He would soon be able to raise 300,000 yuan for surgery. Just as he was about to agree, the crowd was suddenly pushed away. Then, a young mage walked in slowly. Oh my god, isn't this our young Master Wang? Why did he enter the game too? What you said, it's normal for him to play games, but I didn't expect that he would be in the same novice village as us. Young Master Wang walked straight to the stall, glanced at the attributes of the staff, and his eyes lit up instantly, saying, "Brother, account." Ah. Zhang Wang was stunned. Young Master Wang said, "What? Your bank account? I'll transfer money to you. 500,000 yuan. The staff will be mine. 500,000 yuan. Fuck. 500,000 yuan in cash for a piece of gaming equipment. Are you crazy? Rich people are so willful. It's just 500,000 yuan. Think about his status. 500,000 yuan is probably not enough for him to go out and play for a night. He won't care about buying a piece of equipment for fun. This kid is really rich. He got rich overnight. That's right. Where did this kid get the gold equipment? It's weird. Zhang Wang nodded blankly and quickly reported his bank account. It's transferred. Check it offline. Young Master Wang sent a message and said quickly. Zhang Wang quickly logged off. Sure enough, there was a message on his phone. A message of 500,000 yuan in the account. Ah. Zhang Wang shouted excitedly. In the past 6 months, he had been making money like crazy just for Zhang Ting's surgery fee, but he only saved 80,000 yuan. Now in the miracle, he actually made 500,000 yuan just for a piece of equipment. Zhang Ting was also woken up. Seeing Zhang Wang yelling, she hurriedly asked, "Brother, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. I'm fine." Zhang Wang calmed down and said, "Don't sleep yet. I'll give you a surprise later." Then he hurriedly went online. Young Master Wang hadn't left yet. Seeing Zhang Wang online, he muttered, "I thought you ran away. How could that be?" Zhang Wang hurriedly traded the staff to Young Master Wang. Young Master Wang held it in his hand, but his level was not high enough to wear it. He was very upset and said, "Go, find someone to help me level up." Then he said to Zhang Wang, "Brother, add me as a friend. Next time you get good equipment, sell it to me." Zhang Wang nodded vigorously. Soon, the news that someone got the first piece of gold equipment and sold it to young Master Wang and made 500,000 cash directly spread across the country. Can you make money playing games? Nonsense. Those games with hundreds of thousands of people online can make a lot of money, not to mention this game with hundreds of millions of people on one server. It must be able to make money. I heard that a large number of studios have already settled in and started to make money by earning gold. The gold coins in this game are extremely valuable. On 5173, one gold coin can be sold for 30 yuan, and it is still rising. Damn, if you organize a studio and do well, you can make more than 10,000 yuan a month. It's just that the investment is a bit large. A virtual helmet costs 7,000 yuan, and it's out of stock. What you said is true. It doesn't cost that much to buy a good computer. On the first day of the public beta, news about miracles was everywhere on the internet. Many people discovered the business opportunity because the game was too popular and there were too many rich people. The official did not open a recharge channel, and it was free. Buy a virtual helmet and you can play the virtual world. Coupled with the excitement of Zhang Wang's first gold equipment selling for 500,000 cash, more people came up with the idea of making money. On the second day of the game, many people found that the anti-addiction system was launched after logging in, and they could only play for a maximum of 8 hours a day. At the same time, a trading house was also launched. All items, materials, and gold coins obtained in the game can be traded in the trading house, and after binding a bank card, they can be traded directly in cash. Of course, if cash is used in the trading house, the system will charge a transaction tax of 1/10,000th of the transaction amount for each transaction. Once this trading house was launched, it was equivalent to the official website channel, and those platforms that traded gold coins privately almost went bankrupt instantly. Chapter 177 Amazing Flowing Water. After the trading house went online, the game was completely detonated. On the same day, two local tyrants had a conflict over grabbing the boss and started to curse each other in the all-server channel. In the all-server channel, saying a word costs a gold coin. Countless people watched this quarrel. The whole quarrel lasted for 7 hours, and a total of more than 600,000 gold coins were consumed. Calculated at the price of 30 yuan per gold coin in the trading house, the two people cursed 18 million in one day, and the average consumption per person was 9 million. The gold coins in the trading house were almost swept away by the two people. Every time a post was posted, it was swept away. I don't know how many people made a profit, earning hundreds of yuan a day. And this kind of thing happens from time to time. On the 7th day of the public beta, an even more exaggerated thing happened. Wang-Ao, who had reached level 10 and successfully got his first gold level equipment, hired a full 50,000 people at a price of 100 yuan per person in an attempt to attack the first wild boss discovered. The boss with a name, the rebellious elf, and drew 100 yuan per person. 50,000 people is a full 5 million cash. Fortunately, the game has a live broadcast function. The whole process of attacking the boss was put on its own live broadcast platform, attracting more than 10 million people to watch, and countless people to give rewards. 1-AO actually spent 50 million, and the live broadcast platform returned at least half of the money, not to mention the publicity effect of the platform. But unfortunately, in the end, 50,000 people were all knocked down by the rebellious elf Andrew. Because its blood recovery ability was too strong, 1-AO himself was knocked down several times, and the only golden staff also fell, and was picked up by a thief. Later, 1-AO bought it back for 100,000. However, the direct beneficiaries of this action reached 50,000 people. More and more people found that they could make money in the miracle, and this is a game after all. The explosion rate of equipment is a probability problem, just like buying a lottery ticket. If the top quality equipment explodes, it will be a rhythm of becoming rich overnight. A week after the server was opened, it was reported from time to time that someone had hit a top quality equipment and sold it for tens of thousands. On the internet, there was a trend of making money in the miracle. Many people quit their jobs and made money by playing God's relics. It has become a profession. After a week of public beta, Matrix Network released a related data report. Within 7 days, the number of people online per day reached a peak of more than 570 million. This data is equivalent to the sales data of virtual helmets. That is, everyone who bought a virtual helmet entered the game. 570 million people, with an average online time of 3.5 hours. This data is already terrifying, because many people still have to work. However, some people analyzed that if Matrix Network did not limit the game time, this online time would be even longer. At the same time, the turnover also came out. The turnover of transactions in 7 days reached 230 billion. Although it is only the transaction amount, it shows the popularity of the game, and this is only 7 days. In a month, it will directly reach 1 trillion. It is incredible that a game can reach a transaction volume of 1 trillion. As soon as the data was released, many financial media paid attention to it. Some financial experts analyzed that after the global public beta, the influence of God's relics will continue to expand, and the internal transaction volume will reach the size of a country. In other words, the size of a game will be comparable to that of a country. This shows how strong the ability of virtual space to make money is. Tencent headquarters. Many executives were gloomy. They expected that their game data would decline after the public beta of Miracle, but they did not expect the decline to be so severe. For example, the number of online users of Honor of Kings dropped from several million to hundreds of thousands per day, a drop of dozens of times. And this is the most popular Honor of Kings, not to mention other games. Some games have no one even logged in. I feel that even with these online users, there are still people who can't afford to buy virtual helmets. An executive smiled bitterly. The key is their turnover. A daily transaction volume of more than 30 billion is too exaggerated. That's just the transaction volume. According to the transaction tax of 1/10,000th, the profit is only a few million a day, which is far behind us. What you said is wrong. They don't make money from transaction taxes at all. Just selling virtual helmets is enough. That's right. A virtual helmet costs 7,000 yuan, and they can make at least half of it. If they sell hundreds of millions of them, they can make trillions of dollars directly. They don't care about this little profit at all. That's why it's free. But why don't they open a recharge channel? I think the payment rate is very high. If they open a recharge channel themselves, it is estimated that making tens of billions a day will not be a problem. Ma Huateng said, they are right not to open a recharge channel. Don't forget that the country is behind the Matrix Network. The country has no intention of making money from the game itself. I think the country wants to rely on this game to breed a new money-making channel. Look at how many people enter the game to make money. Skilled people can make 100 or 200 yuan a day, which is 6,000 or 7,000 a month. 8 hours a day, playing games. Isn't it easier than going to work? The game helmet is only sold for 7,000 yuan. I guess it is also considered in this regard. Comprehensive promotion is like you have to invest in an electric car when you deliver food. Now there are more and more industrial robots, and many people are unemployed. I guess the country is deliberately creating jobs. Think about it yourself. When the virtual helmet was first released, why did Mr. Zhou spend a lot of time talking about the future of artificial intelligence replacing human labor? I didn't understand it at the time, but now I understand it. At that time, Mr. Zhou was already considering using virtual reality games to create more jobs. So these people have completely different ideas from us. We are only staring at the little profits, but they are looking at the overall situation. They are not from the same world at all. Mahua Teng sighed and sighed. Many executives looked like they were being taught a lesson and finally asked, what should we do then? Wait for death. Mahua Teng said before that they could transplant the game into the virtual reality space in the future, but there has been no news so far, and Miracle has just been publicly tested, so they will definitely not transplant other games into the virtual space to snatch their players. Even if they will in the future, by that time, the game company should be almost dead. Mahua Teng was also anxious, but this kind of thing was not something he could control at all. Forget it, the only way now is to wait patiently, at least until the global public test, Mahua Teng said. By the way, I remember that during the internal test, when the guild was established, it was introduced that the player guild could capture the system city and then collect transaction taxes from the city. This is the first virtual reality game. What do you think, if we Tencent captured the first city and renamed it Tencent City, how strong would the advertising effect be? Yes, let's do it. Organize people for me now, enter the game, play the game, and attack the city. Chapter 178 Various Operations. Mahua Teng felt that his ideas were ahead of the times, but it turned out that there were many smart people in the world. On the 15th day of the public beta, a guild called Pinduoduo organized more than 300,000 people to attack the novice village numbered 12,312. Because it has long been discovered that the NPCs in the game are not invincible, they also have health bars and can be killed. What's more amazing is that these killed NPCs will disappear forever in the world of miracles. If they have a mission, they will be replaced by new NPCs. Under the attack of more than 300,000 players of more than 10 levels, they successfully captured this novice village and killed all the guards in the village. This novice village was also officially renamed Pinduoduo Village. From now on, every new player who landed in this village will have a statement on their identity ID that they are from Pinduoduo Village. This matter was broadcast to the entire server and caused an uproar. Many people have discovered the huge business opportunities in this, and they can advertise, do something big, attack a powerful boss, capture a city, or even establish an extremely powerful guild. Just one system announcement can make more than hundreds of millions of people hear your name and continue to talk about you and be reported by various media. This input-output ratio is not worth it. Moreover, there are benefits from capturing the novice village, and taxes can be collected in the novice village. Guilds can also organize people to fight for materials, make money, and have profits. So next, capital began to intervene. On the third day of Pinduoduo's capture of the novice village, Ali couldn't sit still and became more arrogant. He organized 500,000 people to capture a novice village and renamed it Ali Teobeo Village. In just 1 week, various Ali villages, NetEase villages, Wuliangai villages, Mayotte villages, etc. appeared in the game. The most direct beneficiaries are the vast number of players. When participating in a siege operation, not only will the lost equipment be compensated, all potions will be provided, and you can also get money. Especially for some strong masters, the appearance fee is thousands or tens of thousands. Mahua Teng was getting a little impatient. He had obviously thought of this method first, but he didn't expect that someone else would take the lead. Tencent immediately changed its goal and decided to capture a small town. The defensive strength of the town is completely incomparable to that of the novice village. Not only does it have a city wall, but it also has thousands of guards. For this reason, Tencent spent a lot of money to organize more than 2 million people and preheated its own platform in advance and opened a live broadcast. On the day of the siege, Mahua Teng personally took action to command 2 million players to attack the town called Zifeng. On major live broadcast platforms, it attracted more than 100 million people to watch. Tencent has really made a name for itself. Unfortunately, a team of 2 million people failed to attack a small town with thousands of defenders. Because unlike the novice village, the town defenders are not only of higher level and better equipped, but also request reinforcement from the superior city. 2 hours after the siege, the first wave of reinforcement arrived. It was a warrior riding a griffin, wielding a giant sword, and killing millions of troops, as if he was in an empty space. With one skill, thousands or even tens of thousands of people died. The warrior's health was as high as hundreds of millions, which made everyone despair. In the end, in front of hundreds of millions of people, Tencent's siege operation failed miserably. The entire operation had losses of hundreds of millions. However, more and more operations have made capital see the charm and commercial value of virtual reality games. Soon, players who entered the main city found that the shops in the main city could be purchased. The day after this news was spread to the forum, the main city was full of mall flagship stores, Mayotte flagship stores, etc. And the magical thing is that the shops in the main city are still released in batches, and auctions will be held. Those shops near the city center were even sold at sky-high prices by capital. Countless people exclaimed that this is simply a replica of real estate. Moreover, buying shops, spending money to open flagship stores, and finding ways to make big announcements are just basic advertising and marketing methods. Soon, all kinds of operations appeared. First of all, Pinduoduo, their boss, came up with a trick and organized a lot of people to make potions. Then, as long as they log into their app-related activities to get a redemption code, they can get a set of recovery potions in the game. This activity eventually attracted hundreds of millions of people to get activation codes. Taobao quickly followed up and launched an activity where you can participate in a lottery if you spend 99 yuan or more. The lowest amount in the activity is a set of recovery potions, and there is a high chance of winning silver equipment. For this reason, Taobao spent a lot of money in advance to clear out all the silver equipment in the trading house. Many people actually went to the mall to consume in exchange for silver equipment in exchange for a place in the lottery. In the end, no one knows whether this activity made money, but the various operations of major companies have shocked all kinds of companies. Because many people found that this is an online game with hundreds of millions of daily active users. What kind of channel can gather so many people and let them do marketing with purpose? Many advertising companies have begun to consider how to advertise in the game. BMW held the first BMW Cup Strongest Master competition. The player who won the first place can not only get a top quality equipment, but also get a BMW car in reality. The influx of various capitals has benefited ordinary players the most. Countless people have earned more than their own wages through miracles. Some have become internet celebrities through live broadcasts, posting guides and other channels. There are also top masters who are sought after by countless people and become popular overnight. Miracles quickly became a phenomenal game in China, attracting countless attention. 1 month after the public beta, Matrix Network once again released the data of the game's operation. The daily active volume and online game time continue to increase. The most important thing is the transaction flow in the game. In the first 7 days of the public beta, the transaction flow was only more than 200 billion, but then a large amount of capital poured in, which greatly increased the flow. In 1 month, the exchange flow reached an astonishing 3.2 trillion. This figure exceeds the GDP of many provinces in China in 1 year. It even exceeds the GDP of many countries in the world, and can be ranked above the middle level among more than 200 countries in the world. And this is just a game. After the relevant data was released, the world was shocked. Countless media rushed to report it. What virtual games have huge commercial value, a new business model, and in the future world, more people will flock to the virtual world, and the virtual world will increase in value. Such news can be seen everywhere. The United Nations has been arguing for a month about the implementation details of the virtual space and related regulations. After this announcement came out, the discussion disappeared instantly. No one was arguing anymore. Those small and medium-sized countries only had one request, that the virtual space be opened in their countries as soon as possible. Some powerful countries could not hold back. For example, Country E was the first to agree to Country Z's conditions. All the income from the virtual space would be settled in RMB. Country E compromised, and other countries also compromised. Only Country M and its loyal little brother Country Y refused to agree. When Country Z saw this, it didn't care. It directly kicked out Country M and Country Y, and signed cooperation agreements with other countries first. What was originally impossible to do was easily achieved because of the popularity of the miracle. Chapter 179, Laser Cannon. The White House. Pair's attention has shifted to virtual reality. At the nuclear base, the Blackbird has been deployed countless times, but no useful information has been brought back. And the cost of flying a Blackbird, a jet that has lost its teeth, is also incredibly high. After more than a month, the huge consumption has made Pair a little overwhelmed. That is to say, except for us and Country Y, other countries have basically signed agreements with Country Z to establish virtual spaces. Pair frowned and said angrily, "Can't these traitors see that this is a conspiracy of Country Z? They use our MB for settlement. They are coming for us and trying to challenge our dollar system." The staff said, "Of course they can see it, but the benefits of virtual space are too great. The monthly turnover of a game has reached 3.2 trillion. This is really terrifying. If a huge virtual space is established as Country Z envisions, the economy it drives will be even more amazing. Moreover, Country Z's strength has increased too much in the past year or so. Many countries have seen that Country Z is destined to rise and no one can resist it, so they are betting, but this time they chose Country Z." Pair sighed dejectedly and said, "No matter what, we can't let Country Z's conspiracy succeed. We will not sign this agreement. By the way, Country Y is not allowed to sign it either." After the countries signed the construction regulations of the virtual space, Matrix Network quickly announced that the countries that established the virtual reality would begin to distribute virtual helmets on January 10th, and the official public beta would also start on January 15th. Players from various countries cheered and jumped for joy. They saw that the players from Country Z were playing enthusiastically, but they had been looking forward to this day for a long time. There were also companies from various countries that had learned all kinds of tricks from the companies in Country Z and were eager to join the game as soon as it was opened. But at the same time, Matrix Network also announced that the public beta of Country M and Country Y would continue to be delayed because the virtual reality space agreement had not been reached. As soon as this announcement came out, the players of the two countries were instantly shocked. Why can everyone play the game but we can't? Isn't this discrimination? I've been waiting for this game for 2 months and I've paid for the helmet a long time ago. Why can't I play it yet? It's not their fault. They said that we need to build a virtual space. Our country didn't sign the agreement. I really don't know what the government's idiots are thinking. It's such a simple thing. Why are they making excuses? On the day of the announcement, huge demonstrations broke out in the two countries, and more people scolded the leaders of the two countries on the internet. The momentum was so great that it almost reached the point of national condemnation. After all, so many people have spent money to buy virtual helmets. If they can't play the game, the money for the helmet is equivalent to giving it away in vain. Country Y was the first to be unable to bear it, and immediately contacted Country Z to sign a joint agreement. That traitor. In the White House, Pair scolded the Prime Minister of Country Y. "Mr. President, don't worry about Country Y, you should pay attention to us." Pair turned around and saw through the window that there were a large number of people outside the White House railings, many of whom were holding signs saying "We want to play games." This is pressure from the public, and there is no reason to talk to these people. Pair can't tell them that all this is a conspiracy of Country Z to shake our foundation. If he really said it, I'm afraid no one would listen. And it's not just these people, there is also pressure from Wall Street. Since the launch of Miracle, the stocks of major game companies have fallen to the freezing point, and a group of Wall Street bosses have lost a lot of money. If it was just losing money, it would be fine, but the key is that the bigwigs on Wall Street saw that there are huge profits to be made in the virtual reality space. With a turnover of 3.2 trillion a month, who wouldn't be tempted? In Pair's view, as long as they can make money, those people on Wall Street will not care, even if the country is gone. After a long silence, Pair said weakly, "Sign it. Nuclear base. Open the skylight." Lin Dewey ordered. Above his head, the heavy alloy skylight slowly opened, revealing a 50-meter circular gap. In front of Zhou Yang was a circular device with a diameter of more than 10 meters. The periphery of the device was connected to thick cables. This is the last check. There must not be any mistakes. Do you understand? Lin Dawei shouted. Not far away, Zhou Yang and others were watching the engineer nervously checking the device. Zhu Jindang and others were also there. Mr. Zhao, is this the result of Professor Lin's secret research for more than a month? Zhu Jindang asked curiously. Zhou Yang nodded and said, this is a large laser device, or more accurately, a laser cannon. Laser cannon? The kind of laser weapons in science fiction movies? This thing has actually been developed. It's incredible. In the past month, in addition to keeping an eye on the progress of the nuclear fusion device, Zhou Yang has focused his main energy on laser research. The laser cannon in front of him is the result of the research. Inspection completed. Everything is normal. The engineer shouted. Lin Dawei nodded to Zhou Yang and said, Mr. Zhao, give the order. When will the test launch be carried out? Zhou Yang looked at Long Jianjun and asked, normally at this time, the Blackbird should be here soon. Long Jianjun nodded blankly and said, it should be soon. I need to ask about the specific time. After a pause, Long Jianjun said, Mr. Zhao, do you mean to use this laser cannon to shoot down the Blackbird? This Blackbird flies every day. It has been flying for more than a month. It's time to get rid of it. Zhou Yang said with a smile. Long Jianjun was startled and said, then do you want to report to your superiors? Zhou Yang said, it's just a little bird. It breaks into our airspace every day. We are too lazy to deal with it, but we can't do anything about it. Well, you report the situation to the superiors and say that we are going to test the laser cannon and plan to use this Blackbird as a target. Okay. Long Jianjun ran away quickly. A few minutes later, Long Jianjun ran back and said, the superiors agreed. I will contact the radar station now and ask them to monitor the Blackbird's every move. Half an hour later, the Blackbird arrived as scheduled. The pilots were still David and his partner. Alas, another boring day. Okay, let's finish the mission and go back. The two piloted the Blackbird and swaggered into the airspace of Country Z. Little did they know that their every move was under radar monitoring, and these data were also transmitted to the nuclear base in real time. The Blackbird soon arrived above the nuclear base. Tom turned on the camera and was about to take a photo when he suddenly froze and exclaimed, look, they opened the base. My god, what is inside? With a high-resolution camera, Tom could see the inside clearly through the open skylight. It was a device he had never seen before, and there was a blue light accumulating on the top. There was no time to see it clearly. The next moment, the blue light suddenly disappeared. The camera was suddenly filled with endless blue. Boom. The Blackbird was pierced by the blue light and then exploded. It hit the target. It disappeared. Long Jianjun said excitedly. The people around him cheered. The test was successful. One shot hit the target, sending the Blackbird directly into the sky. Chapter 180 Miniaturization of Laser Weapons. In an American military base, the command center is communicating with the Blackbird. The person in charge of the command is a colonel. Judging from the data in response, everything is normal. This is normal because they have been on a mission for more than a month, and every time it has been extremely smooth. And today, it is still smooth. The colonel got up, made himself a cup of coffee, and took an adult magazine to read. The voices of two pilots communicating came from the communication channel. At this moment, Tom's sharp exclamation suddenly came. Look, they opened the base. My god, what is in it? The colonel, who had just taken a sip of coffee, trembled and poured it directly on his body. He jumped straight on the spot, but he didn't care to tremble more. He rushed to the communicator and asked loudly, what did you see? The next moment, accompanied by a strong sizzling sound, the communication was cut off. Then, the logo of this Blackbird on the radar also disappeared instantly. The colonel's brain was like an electric shock. He instantly thought of what might have happened and screamed, missile, did you detect the missile taking off? No, nothing. Superpowers like Country M and Country Z have a complete system, which is a monitoring network built around military reconnaissance satellites, phased array radars on ships, and land-based radars at military bases. It is no exaggeration to say that with this system, any location in the world can detect a missile taking off within 30 seconds. But now this system has not detected the missile taking off, which means that country Z did not launch a missile. What happened to the Blackbird? This thing is flying at an altitude of 25,000 meters, where there is almost no oxygen, and there will be no bad weather. Unless there is a problem with the aircraft itself, it is almost impossible for external factors to cause the aircraft to crash. But every time it takes off, the aircraft will undergo rigorous inspections, and there should not be any faults. He shouted unwillingly several times, but there was still no response. Coupled with the disappearance of the radar signal and Tom's shouting at the last moment, the colonel's intuition told him that something big had happened. Did a satellite pass by just now? The colonel asked hurriedly. Everyone started to search immediately, but unfortunately, at the time of the incident, no satellite passed over the base. Damn it. The colonel slammed the table angrily and said, "Put me on the line at the Ministry of National Defense." Soon, the news that the Blackbird was shot down was known to Parrot, and the top government officials were shocked. All bases around the world raised their alert levels. It was 100% that Country Z shot down the Blackbird. So, how will Country Z respond next? No one knows, but we must be on guard. At the base, the day after the successful test launch, Li Xianshu and Gao Jianjun rushed over. "Mr. Zhou, I heard that you have developed a new weapon. Where is it? Can you let us see it?" Gao Jianjun said impatiently. Zhou Yang led the two to the laser cannon. This is the laser cannon developed by Professor Lin's team. Its working principle is to compress the laser by magnetic field confinement. After talking for a while, seeing the two people's confused faces, Zhou Yang immediately changed his words. In simple terms, this is a cannon. In the shells fired, the high energy laser is the ammunition, and the magnetic field confinement is the invisible shell that can confine the laser inside and then fire it out. The two people understood instantly. Isn't that the same as the laser cannon in science fiction movies? Gao Jianjun said. Li Xianshu also felt the same way. This thing is simply future technology. Almost. Zhou Yang nodded and said, however, this thing still has quite a few flaws. First, the loading time is close to 1 minute now, but there is still room for improvement in the future, and it should eventually be able to achieve an automatic artillery with a firing rate of 1 round per few seconds. Secondly, and this is the most critical point, it can only shoot in a straight line. A straight line. It cannot shoot in a curve like a howitzer. Therefore, its most ideal shooting environment should be air to ground, loaded on a spaceship or fighter jet, and attacking the ground from the air, or in space, firing in a space without any obstacles. Gao Jianjun and Li Xianshu both shuddered and looked at each other, thinking that Zhou Yang was thinking too far ahead. Even a spaceship. Then there is decay. For example, the current extended range howitzers can easily hit a range of 70 to 80 kilometers, or even 100 kilometers, but this thing can't do that. After the shells are fired, the magnetic field will be affected by the geomagnetic field, and will gradually weaken. Add to that the self-degradation of the laser. For this laser cannon in front of us, it can only hit a range of 40 kilometers at most. But if this thing is in a space environment, it will be different. The range should be infinite in theory. In short, Zhou Yang concluded, after all, this thing is only experimental and there are still many defects, so you don't have to get too excited. Gao Jianjun touched his head and said, how can we be excited? It's you, Mr. Zhou, how can you be so self-deprecating? This is the world's first true laser cannon, and it's also the world's first. Why do you criticize it as useless? Li Xianshu smiled and said, that's because Mr. Zhou has higher requirements. To be honest, we already find it incredible that you can develop this laser cannon in just 1 month. Zhou Yang was totally unimpressed and said, don't compliment me. You can transfer some weapons experts from the Northern Industries and the Aerospace Group. Our next research and development focus is to miniaturize this laser weapon and turn it into a shipborne, airborne, roadborne, or even handheld laser gun. We need to communicate with weapons experts and design it based on the actual situation. The laser cannon can be developed. The core key of laser weapons, magnetic field confinement. Even if it has been developed, the next step is to continue research on this technology and develop various laser weapons. Li Xianshu nodded vigorously. Gao Jianjun also patted his chest and said, Mr. Zhao, don't worry, I will arrange it for you right away. By the way, how is the controlled nuclear fusion going? Li Xianshu asked again. The construction of this nuclear base is not for laser weapons, but for nuclear fusion experiments. Zhou Yang waved his hand and said, it's too early for that. I organized 10 teams. Each R&D team is responsible for the development of different projects. The progress is not bad now, but it hasn't even started assembly, so you don't have to look at it. In fact, the development of controlled nuclear fusion is also critical. In addition to the need for successful ignition, it also needs to be miniaturized. In the foreseeable future, laser particle weapons will definitely be the mainstay. This thing uses electricity, and the power consumption is not low. You can't always carry a cable with you. Large capacity batteries can only be used for small laser weapons such as laser guns and laser swords. For large laser weapons, the best way is to use a small controlled nuclear fusion device to directly output electrical energy, so that the ammunition is unlimited. Chapter 181. Celebrating the New Year in Virtual Reality. Right. Zhou Yang thought of something else and asked, the infrastructure of the smart city should be almost finished, right? The construction of the smart city started in April last year, and 8 months have passed. Although it is a large city, with the infrastructure capacity of country Z, it should be almost completed. Li Xianshu nodded and said, yes, the infrastructure work is almost completed, and it is expected to be completed in May. Well, while it is not completely completed, we need to modify one place. Zhou Yang said, if everything goes well here, the controlled nuclear fusion should be successfully ignited in May or June. At that time, I plan to install it in the smart city, to power the smart city and turn the smart city into a city with unlimited energy. Li Xianshu and the others were enlightened. Mr. Zhao, you mean that controlled nuclear fusion can be completed within half a year? Li Xianshu asked hurriedly. Controlled nuclear fusion has been studied since the 1980s and 1990s, or even earlier, but it has not been developed yet. Zhou Yang is actually going to complete the research within half a year. This is too amazing. Zhou Yang said, I'm talking about if everything goes well. If it doesn't go well, then it's hard to say. Gao Jianjun said quickly, it's better if everything goes well. If this thing is developed, then we will truly have unlimited energy, and many things will change. Energy is the core of modern society. Since humans used fire from thunder and fire to light the first bonfire, the history of human development is a history of constantly using energy and pursuing higher energy. Zhou Yang nodded. He knew the value of this thing. The Black Bad was shot down, and Country M was nervous for several days. In the end, it was found that Country Z had no response, as if this incident had never happened, and it was relieved. However, Country M has never found out how the Blackbird fell, but it dared not send the Blackbird for reconnaissance again. It still wanted to use satellites for reconnaissance, but the Blackbird could not take pictures of key things, let alone satellites. Due to the need to build a database and the problem of helmet production, the global public beta of Miracle on January 15th was postponed again. Finally, on February 1st, when Country Z was about to celebrate the new year, Miracle was officially tested abroad. On the first day, according to the data released by Matrix Network, nearly 1.5 billion people in the world poured into the game at the same time. That's how many helmets were sold. This number is actually quite normal. There are 6 billion people in the world, but there are still many people in poor countries, struggling on the poverty line, fighting, being displaced, not even having enough to eat, and still worrying about how to live. How can they have the leisure to play games and spend money on virtual helmets? If we exclude the elderly, children and infants, the total number of online users can reach nearly 2 billion, which can be said to be the limit, almost covering the whole world. Foreigners finally no longer have to envy Chinese people, and they also began to enjoy the beauty of virtual reality games. In the first few days of the public beta, there was a global depression. No one went to work, stores were closed, and everyone was playing games at home, which made countless media exclaim that the attraction of virtual reality games was too amazing. At this time, it was only half a month away from the new year in China. Half a month in advance, Zhou Yang gave all researchers a holiday and rushed back home. After not seeing each other for 2 months, Zhou Yang and Chen Ruoyan were naturally inseparable and had a good time for a few days. Then it was time to prepare for the Chinese New Year. Seeing the 2 virtual helmets placed at his father-in-law's house, Zhou Yang suddenly had an idea. During this period, the 2 old people were also fascinated by virtual helmets, but they did not enter Miracles to play games, but to travel and visit. Miracles opened a special profession, tourist, 1 month after the public beta. You can directly choose it when creating a character. After choosing this profession, you can't fight monsters to upgrade when entering the game, and you don't need to upgrade. You are directly in an invincible state and can travel freely on the Miracle continent, which is equivalent to sightseeing. This profession is created for those older people who don't like to fight monsters and upgrade, but simply want to appreciate the various beautiful scenery of Miracles. Because there is still a lot of demand for this, some elderly people are inconvenient to move and can only stay at home. There is a lack of entertainment life. Some people buy virtual helmets specifically for their parents, so that they can travel freely in the virtual world. Moreover, in the game, there is also an activity center for the elderly, where you can dance square dance, play magic, etc. This update was originally Fuchs's good intentions, but unfortunately Fuchs still underestimated the creativity of players in Country Z. As soon as the profession was released, some people chose the tourist profession, and then various videos such as My Close Contact with the God of Wisdom and One Day Tour of the Demon Palace continued to appear on the internet. Since the tourist profession is invincible, various powerful NPCs can't do anything to them. There have been funny videos, like I want to ride a dragon, but the dragon won't let me ride it, but I insist on riding it. Then, some bug playing methods were quickly extended. Taking advantage of the invincible characteristics of the tourist profession, a bunch of tourist professions were found to surround the boss, so that the boss can be safely kitted remotely. The CEO of Pinduoduo also showed a wave of magical operations. With the help of the activity of sending free eggs on the app, he successfully attracted tens of thousands of old men and women, and then blocked all the guards in the city, successfully captured the first town in the game, and renamed it Pinduoduo City. As a last resort, 10 days after the tourist profession was launched, Fuchs made emergency modifications and added a lot of restrictions, such as only those over 50 years old can choose the tourist profession, and they will be attacked by monsters in the wild, and then in specific scenic spots, a certain range of safe areas will be circled. But it was useless. The players of Country Z frequently made tricks and led the boss to a specific safe zone. They could still use the tourist profession to block the monster. Fuchs had no choice but to open a special server and copy the map as it was, allowing only the tourist profession to enter. So now everyone is really participating in the Miracle game. Zhou Yang knew that the virtual reality space was about to be released. The higher-ups were already discussing when it would be released. Now they were just waiting for an opportunity. Zhou Yang thought that the Chinese New Year was a good opportunity. Spend the Chinese New Year in the virtual reality space. Dad, what do you think of the idea of spending the Chinese New Year in the virtual reality space? Zhou Yang asked. Chen Tao was stunned and said, what do you mean? Zhou Yang said, it's very simple. For example, you can't go to the Spring Festival Gala on site, but in the virtual reality space, you can enter the scene and watch it in person. Chen Tao was surprised and said, can't we go to the Spring Festival Gala? Are we not allowed to go again? With Zhou Yang's identity, he could definitely go to the Spring Festival Gala. It was confirmed a long time ago. Chapter 180 to Virtual Space Opening. SZ, Tencent Headquarters. Ma Huateng is in a meeting. At the meeting, the head of Photon Studio is introducing their new game plan. Because of the popularity of Miracle, all games, whether online games or standalone games, have suffered a heavy blow. Among them, standalone games are better. After all, they are one-time buyouts. In addition, standalone games have a sense of plot immersion that online games cannot match. So Ma Huateng thinks that standalone games may explode in the virtual reality space. For example, porting the Call of Duty game to the virtual space allows players to experience the real battlefield. or excellent plot RGP games such as The Witcher, GTA, and Red Dead Redemption should also give players a feeling of experiencing a different life. So Mahua-Teng immediately decided to make a standalone game. After many years, Tencent once again decided to make a standalone game, and it was aiming for a 3A masterpiece. The person in charge of Photon Studio said, "We are planning to make a horror game. Although horror games are niche, they have an incomparable sense of immersion. If they are transplanted into a virtual reality space, the sense of immersion will be even more amazing." Mahua-Teng frowned slightly and couldn't help interrupting him, saying, "Will it scare people to death? Horror games are meant to scare people, and there are all kinds of ways to scare people. Some people don't dare to play them, and some even scare them to death. If this is changed to a virtual world, a game comparable to a real horror movie, wouldn't it scare people to death? Even if a disclaimer is added, it would be fun if people were really scared to death." The person in charge of Photon was a little embarrassed and said, "It shouldn't be. Besides, we are making a standalone game. People who buy it have already spent money. At worst, they won't play it. It won't affect us much." "That's right." Mahua-Teng nodded slightly. "The money has been earned. It doesn't matter whether you buy it back to play or not. As for whether it really scares you, Nanshan Pizza Hut is not kidding." "Then do you have any ideas?" Mahua-Teng asked. The person in charge of Photon said, "I have a few ideas for now, but I have another suggestion, which is to buy a ready-made game and then adapt it. I have my eyes on a game, Escape, on the Steam platform. It is very popular on the internet and many anchors will broadcast it live. The key is that this studio is not big. The game industry is depressed now. It shouldn't cost much to buy them." Mahua-Teng suddenly fell into deep thought and muttered to himself, "Buy them? Yes." Mahua-Teng slammed the table and said, "Why didn't I think of it? The game industry is so miserable now. Many game companies are losing money. It's the best time to buy them now. Buying game companies is secondary. The key is the IPs in the hands of these game companies, Call of Duty, Need for Speed, Assassin's Creed, etc., which are all classic IPs with countless fans. Take this opportunity to buy them all, and let these companies all start to have the Chinese character surname. Okay, I'll do as you say, buy it." Mahua-Teng came back to his senses and said without hesitation, "It's just a studio, a drizzle." He waved his hand to signal that everyone could leave. At this time, the secretary suddenly rushed in. "Mr. Ma, we received an email from Matrix Network." The secretary hurriedly said. "What?" Mahua-Teng was shocked. It was no small matter when it came to Matrix Network. He quickly got up and went back to his office to check. The content of the email was very concise. Mahua-Teng was invited to log into the virtual space as a representative of Tencent at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning to attend the Virtual Space Developer Conference. It was just a short sentence, but adhering to the principle of less words, more content, Mahua-Teng keenly realized that the thing he had been looking forward to was probably coming. The next day, Mahua-Teng cancelled all his schedules and logged into the virtual space on time at 9:50 in the morning. This time, he did not enter the miracle directly, but appeared in a spacious space. In the space, figures appeared from time to time. They were all familiar faces. Ma Yun, Yu Changhong, Lei Jun, and almost all commercial companies from all walks of life in China were there. Everyone appeared in this space in a daze, and then each of them found an acquaintance to chat and ask about the situation. "Mr. Ma, Mr. Yu." Mahua-Teng greeted Yu Changhong and said, "Mr. Yu, you have a special relationship with Mr. Zhao. Do you have any inside information?" Yu Changhong smiled and said, "I haven't contacted Mr. Zhao for almost half a year. Where can I get inside information?" If Zhou Yang didn't contact him, Yu Changhong wouldn't dare to contact him. Lei Jun also came over and said, "Maybe the virtual space is going to be opened. Foreign virtual spaces have basically been built." Mahua-Teng thought so too and said, "If the permissions are really released, that would be great." What Mahua-Teng wanted most was to transplant all his games into the virtual space. There were thousands of people at the scene. At 10 o'clock, two figures appeared out of thin air. It was Zhou Yang and Fuxi. Everyone was shocked. They never thought that they would meet Zhou Yang here. At this moment, another ray of light flashed, and Li Xianshu appeared beside Zhou Yang, apologizing to Zhou Yang. "I'm late. There was a meeting that just ended." "Not too late. We just started." Zhou Yang waved to everyone and said, "There are too many people, so I won't introduce everyone one by one. Let's get straight to the point." Some people were just about to come up and get to know Zhou Yang properly, but after hearing this, they had to give up. Zhou Yang looked at Li Xianshu and asked, "Do you want me to speak or should I?" "You should speak." Li Xianshu smiled. Zhou Yang did not refuse and said, "Everyone should know that the country intends to open up the authority of virtual space, allowing more companies to enter the virtual space and create a real second world." Zhou Yang's voice was not loud, but everyone heard it, and many people were excited, especially Ma Huateng. He clenched his fists and secretly said that it really came. Zhou Yang said, "What is virtual space?" "The country's idea is that it can provide all the necessary services for life. Here, just like a real world, there can be cities." Zhou Yang waved his hand, and everyone suddenly rose up. Under their feet, a city was taking shape rapidly, and high-rise buildings rose from the ground. There can be forests. Outside the city, large tracts of forests appeared. Such a scene also shocked everyone. Zhou Yang said, "This is the advantage of virtual space. A city can be built by typing a code, and its greatest role is to connect everyone." Zhou Yang waved his hand again, removing the city and forest below, and passages and gates appeared around everyone. "Our initial idea is to divide the virtual space into areas, such as living and entertainment areas." Zhou Yang rose out of thin air, followed by everyone behind him, moving quickly in the space, and then passed through a gate. After passing through the gate, it seemed like entering another world. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183 Unlimited Business Opportunities. Zhou Yang snapped his fingers, and a cafe rose up in front of him. In the life and entertainment area, you can use a virtual helmet to meet friends thousands of miles away, sit together for a cup of coffee, chat face to face, etc. Or, go skiing, do sports, and enjoy all kinds of life together. Zhou Yang kept switching scenes, the sparkling lake, the snow-capped mountains. What specific services to provide? This is left to you to consider. We just provide a platform. Everyone nodded, and many people felt a sense of brightness. Just like Zhou Yang said before, the biggest role of virtual space is to shorten the distance between people. In the past, there were telephones and the internet, and you could make a phone call, video chat, etc. But virtual reality space can bring two people together in an incredibly real way. In addition, the virtual space has unlimited possibilities, and you can do whatever you want. Zhou Yang waved his hand, and the scene in front of him changed, turning into a bustling commercial street. Buildings rose into the sky, and Zhou Yang led everyone, and walked into one of them casually. Then there is the commercial area. This is easy to understand. It's just like online shopping, but it's more real. For example, if I like a piece of clothing, I can't see it on the internet, but in the virtual reality space, I can try it on at will. Zhou Yang waved his hand casually, and a piece of clothing appeared in front of him. He pulled it on his body, and the clothes on his body instantly changed into the clothes that appeared. In the crowd, Ma Yun's eyes lit up. This is what he wanted most, to open Teo Bao in the virtual space. Zhou Yang snapped his fingers, and everything returned to normal. He said, "I think some people will worry that, if all the stores are opened in the virtual space, what will happen to the stores in reality? Will it cause a large number of stores to go bankrupt and small businesses to close down? I think this may happen." Everyone nodded. Only a part of the people on the scene were engaged in the internet. The vast majority were in the real industry. They had long been worried that the internet would impact their real industry. Now there is a virtual reality space, which will be even more doomed. Only Ma Yun shook his head secretly, thinking that he was not worried at all. Zhou Yang continued, "I think some basic stores should not be affected. For example, if I want to go downstairs to buy a pack of cigarettes, I will definitely go to the supermarket at the door and will not choose the virtual space. As for those small and medium-sized enterprises, this is also an opportunity because the country will open up virtual space permissions to all enterprises and even individuals. But what will be the final result? It will take time to verify. Everyone fell into deep thought. Zhou Yang's display was an inspiration to them, allowing them to see the unlimited business opportunities of the virtual space. At this time, Lei Jun asked, "Mr. Zhou, then this virtual space will definitely not be free to use." As soon as this was said, everyone became excited. Virtual space has many benefits. How could the country provide it to everyone for free? Zhou Yang nodded and said, "That's for sure." After the national discussion, the initial idea is to use the amount of data as the standard. For example, if a person wants to open a store in the virtual space, then he must generate a certain amount of data on the server and spend money to maintain this data. For example, he is a small vendor and he wants a 10 square meter store, just like this. Zhou Yang pointed his finger and an independent storefront in the style of a street shop appeared in front of him. Then it is equivalent to the rent in reality. He needs to spend 100,000 yuan a year for this data. For example, if he wants to open a 4S store, he needs a larger area and more luxurious decoration. The more complex the decoration, the more data he occupies. For example, if you want to set up a video player to play a promotional video, the amount of data is definitely different from painting a white wall. So the more data you have, the more rent you need to pay. For example, Mr. Lei wants to build a headquarters building for your Xiaomi to display, then the amount of data in this building will definitely be higher. Zhou Yang's explanation was simple and clear, and everyone showed expressions of sudden enlightenment. This is just like in reality, everything is clearly marked with a price. If you want to get a better display effect, you must invest more money. Those who have no money can do small business, and those who have money can do big business. In this way, there will be no situation where a company dominates, because the cost of domination will be incredibly high. Of course, business activities in virtual space are also subject to taxation like in reality. Everyone nodded again. They didn't dare to evade taxes. Moreover, in the virtual space, all revenue can be displayed. It is almost impossible to conceal it. Any more questions? Zhou Yang asked. Everyone asked a few more questions, and Zhou Yang and Li Xianshu answered them one by one. After there were no more questions, Zhou Yang said, "There are still 12 days before the Chinese New Year. This year, the country plans to set a precedent, that is, to celebrate the Chinese New Year in the virtual space, so the rights of the virtual space will be open to you from now on. You can check the specific operation methods by yourself. If you don't understand anything, you can directly ask Fuxi." Okay, everyone is in a hurry, so let's do this for now. Here, I wish you all a happy new year in advance. Everyone also hurriedly wished Zhou Yang a happy new year, and then they all went offline. Ma Huateng took off his helmet and rushed out of the office, shouting, "Quick, all the senior executives of the company, come back to me. There is a meeting. There is something important." Finally, Ma Huateng specifically asked about the porting of the game, and Zhou Yang nodded and said yes. As for whether the porting of the new game into the virtual space would affect the number of online players of Miracle, Zhou Yang didn't care at all, and the country didn't make money from the Miracle game. In Zhou Yang's view, the only value of this game is to promote virtual helmets, and unexpectedly let the country and other countries sign an agreement to jointly build a virtual space. On the 7 o'clock news that evening, the official media officially announced the opening of the virtual space, and claimed that various activities to celebrate the new year would be launched in the virtual space. And major companies and official media also followed suit immediately, announcing that they would enter the virtual space and hold activities. As soon as this news came out, the sales of virtual helmets increased again. Because many people can see that this time the country is going to vigorously promote virtual space, and in the future virtual space will become a place that truly affects everyone. Sooner or later, you have to buy it, so why not buy a virtual helmet now? Time flies, and it is approaching the Spring Festival. Chef Zhou Yang did not go home for the new year this year. This time of year is the busiest thing for the hotel. He had already asked for leave, but the chef did not approve it, and his home was too far away, nearly 2,000 kilometers away, and he did not buy a ticket to go home. On New Year's Eve, after the New Year's Eve dinner was ready, many chefs in the kitchen also gathered together to celebrate the new year. Zhou Yang toasted a few glasses of wine, ate a few mouthfuls of rice, and hurried to the restroom and put on the virtual helmet. Chapter 184 A Different New Year. Zhou Yang rented this virtual helmet. With the full deployment of virtual helmets, a new industry has also emerged, helmet rental, providing helmets to those who cannot afford them. It is very cheap, only 50 yuan a day. Some people even invested in opening internet cafes that sell virtual helmets, and the target group is also people who cannot afford virtual helmets. After starting and verifying his identity, Zhou Yang entered the virtual space. Compared with before, this time, anyone who enters the virtual space will not log in directly to the miracle, but will come to a huge space. Virtual world. This is an amazingly large world with 18 cities. When entering, you can choose a city at will, or switch to it at will. In fact, it is equivalent to 18 diversion servers, otherwise it is too unrealistic for hundreds of millions of people to flock to a city. He chose the southwest city closest to his hometown. Zhou Yang stepped on the ground and came to a huge city. This city is full of science fiction. The sky above his head is like a screen with all kinds of fireworks, gorgeous and colorful. From time to time, a huge banner advertisement flashed in the sky above his head. Teobao Festival, all in the commercial district, celebrate the new year with you. This kind of advertisement can be seen by almost everyone. Here, you can stroll and shuttle through the city, or you can open the city panoramic map and switch locations at will. Zhou Yang opened the friend menu and clicked on his wife's name. Soon, the communication was connected, and an image of a woman appeared in front of Zhou Yang. Wife, where are you? I'll find you. We are over here at the amusement park. The woman said. Okay, I'll go there right away. Zhou Yang quickly opened the city map and clicked on the amusement park. In a flash, he appeared outside the amusement park. In front of him was an extremely huge amusement park with a lot of people. During the new year, the amusement park is free to enter. Zhou Yang followed the flow of people and found his wife near the carousel. Dad, with two children, a boy and a girl, threw themselves into Zhou Yang's arms like swallows returning to their nests. Zhou Yang hugged the two children tightly and burst into tears instantly. He hadn't hugged his own children for 2 years. Not far away, Zhou Yang's wife and elderly parents were standing nearby. Their eyes were also red and wet. The family, separated by thousands of mountains and rivers, now met in the virtual space. A few days ago, Zhou Yang contacted his wife and asked her to rent virtual helmets for the whole family. Compared with the cost of going home once, the investment in renting virtual helmets is too low. The real feeling of holding the children made Zhou Yang sigh with emotion. After a while, Zhou Yang calmed down. Dad, is this the playground in the big city? It's so fun. The two children said naively. Zhou Yang picked up the two children, one in each hand, and said, come on, Dad will play with you today. In the past 2 years, Zhou Yang felt that what he owed the most was his children. Now that he has a virtual space, he can make it up to his children in the virtual space. After having a great time with the two children, Zhou Yang said, let's go watch the Spring Festival Gala. His wife asked curiously, I wonder what the Spring Festival Gala in this virtual space is like. Zhou Yang opened the system menu of the helmet. There were many messages here. Some companies would buy advertising space in this place. Just click and you can instantly reach the company's store or event site. The first announcement was the live broadcast of the Spring Festival Gala. Zhou Yang pulled several family members into a queue, so that when they were teleported, the family could act at the same time. Then he clicked into the live broadcast. The eyes blurred, and when they reappeared, they had arrived in a huge space. In front of the few people was a huge stage, and a dance was going on the stage. There were seats under the 5 people, and they could change their position and distance at any time. It was like a private cinema, and they could enjoy the almost real Spring Festival Gala alone. And they could also set it up to watch with friends, relatives, or strangers to enjoy different feelings. This space was equivalent to being independent, and could move around at will. It seems that there are also melon seeds and fruits for sale here. Do you want to have some? Zhou Yang checked the system functions and entered different program spaces. The corresponding functions would be provided according to the program space they were in. For example, in the program space of the Spring Festival Gala, you can switch between several scenes, modify the volume of the sound, etc. At the same time, you can also provide daily snacks, such as melon seeds, peanuts, drinks, fruits, etc. Zhou Yang's wife said, "Everything here is fake, and I can't eat it, so forget it." Zhou Yang said, "It's fake, so just treat it as a novelty. It's not expensive anyway. Look, there are even durians. Don't you always want to eat it, but you can't bear to buy it? The fruits provided are of various types, and the prices are almost the same. After all, they are virtual." Zhou Yang quickly bought a portion of durian, some dried fruit drinks, etc. Then the payment window popped up, and the money in the bound bank card could be directly deducted by entering the password. After payment, all the melon seeds and fruits appeared in front of the family in an instant. The durian was peeled, and there were options for melon seeds and peanuts. If you choose to peel them, there are also flavors. Zhou Yang picked up one and cracked it off skillfully. It tasted exactly like eating melon seeds in reality, and even the taste was the same. His wife ate a piece of durian and was very satisfied. As for the two children, they ate the rare watermelon in winter and were very satisfied. "This place is so magical," Zhou Yang exclaimed. "The virtual reality world is exactly the same as the real world." At this time, the dance on the stage ended, and the magic segment that everyone loves to see and hear was next. But this time, it was Zhou Yang's turn to be the one. Zhou Yang was at the Spring Festival Gala, sitting in the first row. "Is this Zhou Yang? I saw on the news that this virtual space was developed by him." Zhou Yang's wife pointed at Zhou Yang and said. Zhou Yang nodded, staring at Zhou Yang intently, and said, "I think I should thank him very much. The technology developed by Zhou Yang is really changing his life." At the Spring Festival Gala, Zhou Yang cooperated with the magician with some laughter and tears. He guessed the mystery of this so-called magic with a little thought, but he had to pretend to be surprised in front of the camera, which was really embarrassing. Soon, it was early morning. An announcement popped up in Zhou Yang's helmet system that a fireworks party would be held, and he could go to watch it. "Let's go. Dad will take you to watch the fireworks." Zhou Yang and his family clicked in, isolated themselves from other people, and came to the riverside. They were watching a waterscape fireworks show. Around them, faint human figures could be seen, densely packed. These were other people who came to watch the fireworks. In the sky, some people bought special positions. There were dragon boats, airships, and all kinds of strange things. Huge fireworks lit up the sky. The program-generated fireworks were extremely gorgeous. With the countdown composed of fireworks, the new year arrived. Zhou Yang couldn't help but hugged his wife and children tightly. Chapter 185 Hidden Consumption. The new year is coming. But the carnival in the virtual world is not over. Here, you can find all the entertainment you want. In order to make the first shot in the virtual space, major companies have also invested heavily. Mall Festival invited many top stars and internationally renowned movie stars, attracting more than tens of millions of people to watch. Tencent also launched the Super Mario Grand Challenge and Red Envelopes event. Incarnated as Super Mario, you can challenge levels in the virtual world. Every time you pass a level, you can get a red envelope reward, which attracted nearly 50 million people to participate. BMW held a car god competition, attracting millions of people to participate. The top 100 winners can get a BMW car in reality. Chinese people have the habit of staying up all night. After watching the Spring Festival Gala, it is the time for night owls to go out and have crazy entertainment. Various activities in the virtual space are just what they like. The next day, Matrix Network announced the big data of the new year in the virtual space on its official website. In one day and one night, a total of more than 700 million people entered the virtual space. 700 million people spent a total of 630 billion yuan in various forms in the virtual space. And this 630 billion is only the pure consumption of the participants, and does not include the amount of consumption of the participants in major companies. Once this data was released, it shocked the world. With the expansion of the influence of Country Z, the attention to the Lunar New Year is also increasing. And this year, Country Z chose to hold celebrations in virtual space for the first time, which attracted the interest of many people. Many reporters from all over the world also entered the virtual space to report. For example, the BBC of Country Y edited a special report on the dreamy new world, which was broadcast during prime time, and attracted tens of millions of people to watch. In the report, the blonde and blue-eyed BBC reporter Hathaway visited 18 cities, each of which has its own characteristics. For example, Northeast City is a world of ice and snow, where you can ski at will, and participate in various ice and snow related celebrations. There are also rainforest worlds, fairy tale worlds, and cities with different characteristics, which make the audience of Country Y a little jealous. This is simply a carnival. It's so attractive. I also want to have such a New Year celebration. Hasn't our country also built a virtual space? Why not hold a similar celebration? I also want to play in such a world. Don't forget that our virtual space was built with the help of Country Z. When the virtual space is opened, Country Z will definitely have priority. Just like Miracle, they have been in public beta for more than a month, and we have just started playing. Alas, why didn't we invent this great technology? In the past, people from various countries did not have an accurate concept of the virtual world reported in the news media, thinking that it was just like the Miracle game. But this spring festival celebration has opened the world's eyes and made it realize that the virtual world can be so colorful. Nowadays, the most discussed topic on the internet in various countries is when their country's virtual space will be opened. Compared with ordinary people, governments are more concerned about the benefits of virtual space. The White House of Country Empire is listening to a report on the situation of virtual space. What? In one day, the net consumption is 630 billion yuan, and the consumption of the settled enterprises has not yet been counted. This is too exaggerated. This is more than 600 billion, and it took one day. As far as Pear knew, the celebration would last for 7 days, and there would be various special activities. Even if the consumption would decrease later, it was estimated that there would still be 500 billion a day. In this way, in 7 days, the revenue would reach 3.5 trillion. How much is the GDP in a year? While marveling at the terrifying consumption power of the Z countrymen, Pear was a little jealous. I heard that they also provided food in the virtual space, and many people ate it. I can't believe that people are willing to buy some fake things, just some data. And I think their future income will continue to increase, because many entertainment facilities, such as amusement parks, are now free and open. It is estimated that they will charge in the future. After establishing a continuous consumption habit, how much should the revenue grow? It should be easy to create tens of trillions of revenue in this year. The staff present discussed it. It was expected that the virtual space concept proposed by Z country would explode and have amazing potential, but it was not expected that it would be so popular and profitable. Pear slammed the table and shouted, "No, we have to open the virtual space as soon as possible. Contact Country Z and tell them what we mean." Everyone nodded in agreement. This ability to make money is too enviable. Governments of various countries contacted the government of Country Z as soon as possible, wanting to open virtual space in their own countries. Country Z responded quickly, saying that if they wanted to open the permissions, they could increase the database storage capacity first. Of course, the upgrade money. Didn't you promise to help us build it for free? You are breaching the contract. The Minister of Commerce of Country M said angrily during a video call with the person in charge of Country Z. The person in charge of Country Z smiled and said, "That's right. We built the virtual space for you for free as promised. You see, we didn't charge you any licensing fees or service fees. Your virtual space can be used normally, and everyone can play the Miracle game. We have perfectly fulfilled our promise. How can you say that we have breached the contract?" The Minister of Commerce widened his eyes and said, "Since it has been built, why not open up the permissions directly?" The person in charge of Country Z smiled and said, "We can open up the relevant permissions to you now, but I want to make it clear that with your current database storage capacity, it should be more than enough to store the data of the Miracle game. But virtual space is a completely different concept. If you want to build a large virtual space, the first thing to solve is data storage. Do you know how much data we used to build the virtual space? 3051 PB of data, and on the first day of opening, the data volume skyrocketed by 1027 PB. If you think your database can support such a large capacity of data, then I can open up the permissions to you now. The Minister of Commerce opened his mouth wide and was about to speak when the person in charge of country Z said, "By the way, I have to remind you that virtual reality games and virtual space are completely different concepts. They have higher requirements for data reading and writing speeds. Simply put, any hard drive on the market cannot meet its requirements." "Then what are you using?" the Minister of Commerce asked blankly. The person in charge of country Z said, "Of course, we use our own cell hard drive that imitates the biological cell structure. Although it is very expensive, the storage capacity is amazing and it perfectly meets the requirements of virtual space. Of course, data communication must also be upgraded, because the data collision volume in virtual space will be higher. You'd better upgrade our latest 5G technology. We have handed it over to Huawei to do this. Their technology is pretty good." The Minister of Commerce widened his eyes and suddenly slammed the table after a while, shouting, "You are hiding consumption." Sure enough, nothing is cheap when it comes to free things. Chapter 186 times have changed. Z made the Minister of Commerce of country M feel what it was like to be oppressed by evil capitalism. After a long while, the Minister of Commerce calmed down and said, "Just tell me, how much does it cost to build a virtual space as big as yours?" The smile of the head of country Z suddenly became sincere. "We have already made estimates for you in advance. The upgrade of the existing database, the upgrade of the 5G network, the purchase of materials, and the technical costs and other miscellaneous costs together will cost about $260 billion US. How much?" The Minister of Commerce's heart seemed to be grabbed by someone, and he felt a little dizzy. His mind was full of only one thought, too dark. "That's right," the head of country Z said again, "our technicians and cell hard drives have limited production. If you need to upgrade, please decide as soon as possible, because we also have to arrange time and schedule. Otherwise, we can only complete the upgrade in Europe first. European countries have reached a preliminary agreement with us, and the total contract amount is $640 billion US. The Minister of Commerce shuddered fiercely. It turned out that, if he wanted to be oppressed, he had to rush forward. At this moment, the Minister of Commerce suddenly remembered that many years ago, when they faced country Z, they were just like country Z today. They sold things to you, whether you wanted it or not. They sold it to you because they respected you. If you didn't want it, there were plenty of people who wanted it. I would sell it to someone else. At that time, country Z was so frustrated, and country M is also so frustrated now. I will report to the president," the Minister of Commerce said tremblingly. The person in charge of country Z smiled and said, "Then you must give me a reply as soon as possible within 24 hours. 24 hours as soon as possible, otherwise you will have to rank behind Europe." After a pause, he said as if to comfort her, "The cost of upgrading this thing looks quite high, but in fact, as long as you operate it well, I estimate that you can get your money back in 1 year, and you can also charge your companies for usage fees like us." The Minister of Commerce's eyes lit up. "That's right, the cost can be passed on to local companies. If you want to enter the virtual space, then pay for it." Thinking of this, the Minister of Commerce suddenly felt open-minded and did not think that country Z's offer was expensive. "Okay, I understand. Please wait for my news." After cutting off the video, the Minister of Commerce hurried to report to Per. In the White House, after listening to the report, Per slammed the table and shouted, "Didn't they say it was free? Why are they charging for it now? $26 trillion US. Are we crazy, or are they crazy? We don't have that much money, and Congress will never approve such spending." The Secretary of Commerce said, "Sir, it is foreseeable that virtual reality space will become one of the most important technologies in the future. If all countries are working hard to develop virtual space, and we don't, then we will be the ones left behind. 26 trillion. Country Z is a little bit shady, but they had no good intentions from the beginning when they claimed to build a virtual space for us for free. Now they are just revealing their true purpose. And we can pass on the 260 billion to those companies on Wall Street. Don't they want virtual space? Then everyone should pay for it. Why should the government pay for it and give it to them for free? At the end, the Secretary of Commerce sighed, "Sir, times have changed. Times have changed. The backward country Z has caught up and become the foreigner who exploits them." Pear fell back, his anger extinguished, as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. The words of the Minister of Commerce seemed to be still lingering in his ears. Times have changed. In the end, with the help of the explosion of the Spring Festival activities, Country Z signed upgrade contracts of different amounts with countries all over the world. The total contract amount reached an astonishing $2.3 trillion. It is not much different from the foreign exchange reserves. Moreover, this time, Country Z specifically stated in the contract that it did not want US dollars, but only RMB. The RMB exchange rate also ushered in a wave of strong appreciation. However, as Country Z's products are becoming more and more competitive, the impact of this wave of appreciation on exports is not that great. So much money will definitely not be credited at once, but the biggest winner of this transaction is definitely Huawei. It's not the cell hard drive. The cell hard drive was developed by HiSilicon Kirin at the instruction of Zhou Yang, and the foundry was handed over to BYD. The direct beneficiaries of this massive hard drive order are of course HiSilicon Kirin and BYD. And a large part of these two companies are under Matrix Energy, which means that the ultimate beneficiary is still the country. Of course, Huawei also won a large number of 5G communication orders with the Spring Breeze. Governments of various countries also announced soon that their virtual spaces would be launched soon, and enterprises in various countries were also gearing up to prepare, because there was a precedent for enterprises in Country Z, and they only needed to copy the model. Among this wave of dividends, Tencent was the first to explode, because playing games in virtual space really has an innate advantage. On the 15th day of the first lunar month, Tencent took the lead in announcing that it had transplanted one of its most important games, Stimulating Battlefield, to the virtual space. At the same time, Tencent announced that it would release a single-player horror game, Escape, which is also a classic transplant. In order to quickly launch these two games, Tencent didn't know how much money it spent just to pass the review. It was looking forward to the launch of the game to save the nearly collapsed game business. The game was officially launched on the 20th day of the first lunar month. On this day, Ma Huateng turned down all his schedules and stayed in the company to pay attention to the launch of the game. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Ma Huateng rushed to the company. The official launch time of Stimulating Battlefield was set at 10 o'clock. Starting from the 15th day of the first lunar month, Ma Huateng began to market crazily. He first launched a Battlefield experience event, then spent a lot of money to purchase the system recommendation position in the virtual space, as well as the Sky advertising position in various cities, inviting players to experience the real gunfight game in the virtual space first, so as not to be unfamiliar with the operation after the game logs in. As for the pop-up promotion on WeChat and Questions platforms, it is even less of a problem. In short, for the launch of this game, Tencent can be said to have devoted everything it has, a bit of a desperate taste. But as soon as Ma Huateng came to the company, he learned a bad news. NetEase's Tomorrow After had been publicly tested at 6 o'clock. After Tencent announced the transplantation of the exciting Battlefield, NetEase immediately followed up and announced that it would transplant their survival doomsday multiplayer competitive game Tomorrow After to the virtual space. But compared with Tencent's fanfare, NetEase seems to be much more low-key. But Ma Huateng did not expect that on the day the game was about to be launched. NetEase actually did this to him, opening the game 4 hours in advance, and belonging to the same gunfight shooting game will definitely attract a large number of players. Chapter 187 The Penguin of Conscience. NetEase is not kind. Ma Huateng cursed in his heart. Boss Ma, what should we do now? Should we open the server too? Open, why not? Open now, pop-up window, announcement, all channels are open to me, open now. Ma Huateng gritted his teeth and said, if it is not open now, after 4 hours, the flow of people will be attracted away, and then it will be a big trouble. At present, Tencent began to use various channels to announce the official launch of the exciting Battlefield with pop-up announcements. In the virtual space, Zhang Ming went online early. He first logged into the Miracle and put all the equipment made yesterday on the auction house. The Miracle has been online for almost 3 months, but the popularity has not shown any sign of decreasing. Zhang Ming is a famous equipment maker in the game. He is also a Dao anchor with millions of fans. He has also made a lot of money by creating and strengthening equipment through live broadcasts. He also collected a lot of materials in the trading house to prepare for the live broadcast enhancement in the evening. At this time, Zhang Ming suddenly received a message. The game is online ahead of schedule. Start broadcasting quickly. Zhang Ming was stunned. He had already agreed with Tencent yesterday that he would start a live broadcast of PUBG Mobile today to help attract publicity. Didn't they say that the server would be launched at 10 o'clock? It's not even 7 o'clock yet. Zhang Ming asked. Something went wrong. NetEase suddenly launched after tomorrow. Zhang Ming didn't ask any more questions. He already understood the reason. Tencent was being cheated by NetEase. Zhang Ming had taken the money, so what could he say? He immediately logged off and logged into the live broadcast platform. The live broadcast platform Zhang Ming belonged to was also transplanted to the virtual space. Compared with the traditional video live broadcast mode, it also had an immersive live broadcast function, which was to put oneself in the situation of the live broadcast. However, this function requires a viewer to use a virtual helmet, and the live broadcast game must support this function. Otherwise, they can only watch the live broadcast on their mobile phones as before. PUBG Mobile supports this function. Although it was still early when Zhang Ming went live, Tencent had already helped to attract traffic, and soon hundreds of thousands of people flooded into the live broadcast room. Hello everyone, PUBG will be online today. I was notified that PUBG will be online ahead of schedule, so we are entering the game now. I don't know what the PUBG transplanted to the virtual space will be like. Zhang Ming said. Comments continued in the live broadcast room. I have to work overtime today and don't have time to put on the helmet. It's just right to see how the anchor plays. I don't know what the difference is from the original PUBG. Didn't they say that the server will be opened at 10 o'clock? Why is it suddenly opened earlier? I don't know this. NetEase's after tomorrow suddenly went online. I guess Tencent is afraid that people will be attracted to it, so they decided to open the server ahead of schedule. Zhang Ming quickly logged into PUBG. There was a tense CG cutscene at the beginning. Zhang Ming didn't look at it much, just skipped it, and entered the game. After choosing his name. When creating a character, it should be imitating miracles. You can scan your real appearance or pinch it yourself, but you still can't change your gender. It is estimated that future games will continue this method, so those who want to play a transvestite have no hope. After creating a character and entering the game, Zhang Ming appeared in a camp. This should be the camp. It's well done. Look at this treasure chest. It should be the storage box. This is the bulletin board. Let me take a look. Wow. New Year event. 7 days of fun after the server is launched, and the first recharge will give you an M4 VIP skin. It's a familiar formula. Zhang Ming complained, which caused a burst of laughter and resonance in the live broadcast room. It's the same old story, just a new soup. Tencent is still Tencent. We'll just arrange the treasure chest lottery when the time comes, and we'll be all set. You can't say that. After all, they develop games to make money. You can't play if you don't spend money. Don't be so sarcastic. Is the gaming experience the same for freeloaders and the tycoons? Forget it. I'd rather experience it and play Miracle. Miracle is the most conscientious. How can Miracle be the most conscientious? Those tycoons who spend money can beat dozens of people at once. Beating dozens of people is nothing. Do you know young Master Wang? In the last faction war, he beat hundreds of people by himself. I heard that all his equipment is worth over 10 million. What's the big deal? It's an indisputable fact that people become more powerful by spending money, but the key is that this game makes money for us freeloaders, so I think it's quite conscientious. I'm not against charging to become stronger. The key is that the money spent by the rich in miracles eventually goes to us freeloaders and the petty bourgeoisie. It's like the rich pay us to play with them. I'm willing to do it since I'm paid. If Miracles opens a recharge channel, it will be completely different. Tencent is a company after all, and Miracles is backed by the country. The country is too lazy to make money from us. Zhang Ming took a quick look and said with a smile, sure enough, the mall is indispensable. These clothes are so conscientious. The most expensive one is only 198. Zhang Ming recharged 3,000 yuan familiarly and arranged for clothes, backpacks, luxury cars, weapon skins, and everything else. After all, it's only more than 1,000 yuan, which is so conscientious. Zhang Ming said again. The live broadcast room burst into laughter. Is this the legendary reverse sales? I can be sure that the anchor definitely did not receive money from Tencent. Zhang Ming looked at the comments in the live broadcast room and laughed in his heart. Who said that he did not receive money? It was obvious that he did. He just used the reverse sales routine. As long as the popularity is hyped up, there will always be novices who do not know the truth and fall for it. Okay, let's try again to see how much the guaranteed price of the New Year's commemorative set is. Let's shout with me that Tencent is conscientious. Zhang Ming started to open the first costume treasure box in the game. The remaining more than 1,000 yuan of recharge was opened in an instant. Zhang Ming said, damn, it's too conscientious. It's just to cheat the rich. Come again. He recharged another 3,000 yuan. Finally, after drawing a bunch of parts, he successfully opened the New Year's commemorative set. I want to cry. The guaranteed price is only more than 2,000. It's too conscientious. Zhang Ming said. The live broadcast room was already very happy, and the number of people was also rising steadily, reaching about 3 million. Okay, enter the game. Zhang Ming felt that the number of people was about the same, so he directly clicked on the game and entered the game. At the beginning, Zhang Ming directly entered the game and appeared on an island. This picture quality is simply amazing. After all, it is a virtual reality game. Zhang Ming said. The bright sunshine, the sparkling sea, and the air seemed to have a salty and humid smell. The operation is a little different. Those who have participated in the experience activities before should know that there is no distinction between the first person and the third person. You are you, and there is no card perspective. If you want to see behind you, you must turn your head. What you see with your eyes is what you see. Such a modification should increase the difficulty of the game, because people's vision will always subconsciously ignore some things. I feel that Voldemort's spring is coming. Zhang Ming commented, and soon the countdown ended, and everyone boarded the transport plane. The transport plane also became a real transport plane. Everyone sat in the spacious cabin, with a holographic map on their wrists, which could be clicked to view the poison circle and the location of their companions. Chapter 188. Do you think we are doing charity? Zhang Ming chose a 4-person team. He first met up with 3 teammates to discuss where to jump. Needless to say, P-City Steel Gun. Zhang Ming scanned the route and said. The 3 teammates did not object. Soon, they arrived at the parachute position. The 3 followed Zhang Ming and started parachuting at the same time. The parachuting process was also extremely realistic. After entering the route, the door of the transport plane would open. When you arrived at the location, you could just jump directly. Zhang Ming rushed out of the cabin with his companions. In an instant, the whistling wind came towards them. Wow, this parachuting is so cool. Zhang Ming said excitedly. The whistling wind blew past his ears, and watching the earth gradually become clear, the excitement of free fall was simply irresistible. I suddenly discovered the highlight of this game, parachuting. It can be turned into a parachuting experience game in the future. Zhang Ming said. Some people who choose immersive live broadcasts also have the same feeling. Fuck, that's right, this skydiving is so cool. I remember Trip also has skydiving, but it costs 88 per time, and the experience is much worse than this. Zhang Ming opened his parachute and slowly floated down on the roof of a 3-story house in P-City. Damn, I want to die and then skydive again. Forget it, I can't let my teammates down. Let's get started. Zhang Ming's skills are pretty good. He has live streamed PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds before, and it's just the beginning. With his skills, he is enough to crush many people. The shooting is very realistic, especially when using a sniper. It feels so good to shoot a headshot from hundreds of meters away. Soon, Zhang Ming led the team into the finals. Unfortunately, they were tricked by 2 Voldemorts. Fuck, I said that after this game can't be stuck in perspective. Voldemort will rise. Damn, I just walked past that guy and didn't even notice him. Zhang Ming complained crazily. Tencent headquarters. Ma Huateng was listening to a report. Since the server was launched, 18 million people have entered the game in 1 hour. The operation reported. Ma Huateng said excitedly, not bad. Many executives nodded. It's only been an hour. We suddenly went online ahead of schedule. Although we have made some remedies, many people should not have had time to go online. At 10 o'clock, the number of people should increase again. By the way, I wonder how NetEase is doing. An executive put down the phone and said proudly, they went online almost 2 hours ago, and the number of people is only about 12 million. Haha, I said, how can NetEase compare with us? Ma Huateng asked again, how much is the recharge turnover? The opening of a new game should be the time when the revenue is the highest. 18 million people. Everyone makes a 6 yuan initial recharge, which means a profit of nearly 100 million. The operation said 3.6 million people paid the initial recharge, and the final recharge turnover is 370 million. Everyone was excited again. 370 million in just over an hour. So today's turnover will definitely exceed 1 billion. We are going to be a big hit. After losing money for so long, we finally started to make a profit again. It turns out that games still make money. The R&D cost of our porting this time is not much. The main cost is the porting license fee of 1.63 billion. It won't take long to make it back. Ma Huateng thought that the porting license fee was too high before, but now it seems too cheap. At 10 o'clock, the number of active users of PUBG Mobile exceeded 40 million. Ma Huateng had already called the senior executives to hold a celebration party. In the next few days, taking advantage of the various opening activities of the 7 days of fun, the popularity of PUBG Mobile was very high, with 20 million online users every day, quickly surpassing the after tomorrow. But to Ma Huateng's surprise, the payment rate of the game continued to decline. The 890 million turnover on the first day turned out to be a swan song. In the next few days, it was a decline, lower and lower every day. How could this happen? Ma Huateng was a little dumbfounded. After discussion, he immediately put the various special skins he had prepared in advance on the shelves. The turnover moved slightly and continued to decline. Ma Huateng continued to put skins on the shelves, but it was useless. This time, Ma Huateng felt something was wrong. The relevant survey data was soon placed in front of Ma Huateng. The skins are too expensive. I have already charged so much money to the mobile game, but I can't transfer the account data in. It's a bit. It feels meaningless. The key is that I can't make money. In Miracle, you can earn tens or hundreds of dollars just by moving bricks for a day. It's okay to experience it with a little krypton. It feels so. Miracle is better. It can make money. After reading these player feedback, Ma Huateng fell into deep thought. The problem is mainly concentrated on the high price, and many people who are willing to pay have already paid in the mobile game. If they are asked to charge again, those who are willing to charge will only charge less, and those who are unwilling to charge will not charge even more. Then there are many people who compare this game with Miracle, saying that Miracle can still make money, just come and experience it. This feedback almost made Ma Huateng spit out blood. You come to play my game and want to make money from me. What are you thinking? Miracles is a state-owned product. Whether it makes money or not, the state does not care at all. Moreover, the size is huge. Miracles can basically maintain the operating costs of the database just by drawing the transaction flow. For the state, it is enough to be able to bear its own profits and losses, not to put money into it or to put less money into it. But Tencent can't do this. Without Krypton Gold, no recharge, and still let you make money from us. Do you think Tencent is a charity company? Fortunately, the payment rate of Tomorrow, which was launched at the same time, is also very low. Just when Ma Huateng was having a headache about what to do, the standalone game Escape, which they launched at the same time, was unexpectedly a big explosion. Escape did not do much publicity for the game. It was launched in a low-key manner and adopted a one-time buyout method with a price of 99 yuan. At the beginning, sales were very low. But when the anchors of various platforms began to broadcast this game live, sales increased instead. 7 days ago, sales have exceeded 5 million copies, with a net sales of 500 million. Although it cannot be compared with the flow of exciting battlefields, this is a standalone game, and the licensing fee is much lower. The profit of 500 million is not low. Moreover, the reputation of Escape is fermenting, and all platforms are full of live broadcasts of Escape. Because the horror game in the virtual reality space is too real, as if you are in a horror movie, the live broadcast effect is amazing. But the audience also likes to see the anchor scared to death and screaming. Moreover, many people are willing to buy it and play it themselves after watching the live broadcast. Although they only dare to wander outside the mental hospital after buying it, it perfectly interprets what it means to be bad at it, but still want to play it. In short, with this kind of word-of-mouth fermentation, coupled with Tencent's investment in promotion, Escape exploded. The sales volume quickly increased tenfold from 5 million to 50 million in just 1 week. 50 million sales, 5 billion sales. Seeing this result, Ma Huateng was dumbfounded. He originally planned to continue to port other games, but now seeing this result, there is no point in porting. Make a standalone game. Chapter 189. I'll teach you a lesson. If you overturn the stall. The spring festival passed slowly. Life continued. Everyone returned to work. Zhou Yang also said goodbye to his family and returned to the nuclear base. Time came to late March, and a piece of news suddenly exploded the internet. In the Republic of Syria in F state, a rebellion broke out. The rebels were so powerful that they captured Bucharest, the capital of the Republic of Syria, in just 1 week. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Country Z issued an emergency announcement asking citizens not to go to the Republic of Syria. But at the same time, Country Z invested in the development of a large number of minerals in the Republic of Syria. F state is rich in mineral resources. Country Z waived its banknotes and borrowed a large amount of money on the grounds of helping the other country develop. It looks like giving money, but in fact it has a deep meaning. If I lend you money, you must build infrastructure. Your own infrastructure capacity is so rubbish, and Country Z's infrastructure capacity is so strong. That's just right. You pay the money and I help you build infrastructure. Highways, railways, and even the presidential palace are all built by Country Z's builders. Therefore, the money lent out basically flows back to Country Z, creating jobs and consuming the country's excess infrastructure capacity. At the same time, if you can't pay back the money you borrowed, it doesn't matter. You can use your mineral resources as collateral. Anyway, you don't have the ability to mine, so you can sell the mining rights to Country Z, and a large amount of mineral resources are shipped back to Country Z. In short, Country Z's behavior seems to be stupid and rich, but in fact, no one knows how much money it has made behind the scenes. Moreover, this kind of business is not something you can do just because you want to. If you don't have the strength, you can't do it. In the past, it was Country M and Country Y that gave money, and it was only in recent years that it was Country Z's turn. In the Republic of Syria, Country Z also invested a lot of minerals and had a lot of workers. Because the situation worsened, Country Z immediately decided to evacuate its citizens. 3 cruise ships arrived in the Republic of Syria, and after friendly communication with the government, they obtained the right to evacuate citizens without hindrance. Thousands of Chinese people, arranged by the consulate, successfully arrived at the port where the cruise ship docked and evacuated safely. There is also a geological survey team that is now trapped in Bucharest, which is occupied by the rebels. There are many people, and there are 17 people on the list. Colonel Lin, we can't ignore these people. Consul Wang Wen said. The highest commander of the 3 cruisers is Colonel Lin Yuan. He frowned and said, I know the situation. I will communicate with my superiors now and report the situation. As he said that, he immediately took out the satellite phone and communicated with his superiors. At this time, among the evacuees queuing to board the ship, a young man suddenly came out. He was in a strong figure and came to Lin Yuan. He saluted in a standard way. Lengfeng, the former South China military region, the Wolfang Special Brigade, reports to the chief. The young man shouted loudly. Lin Yuan had just put down the satellite phone and was stunned for a moment and quickly returned a military salute. Chief, I'm familiar with Bucharest. This is an internal war in the Republic of Syria. I know it is not convenient for the country to intervene. I'm a civilian. I can go to Bucharest in my personal name and rescue the geological team. Leng Feng said in a deep voice. Wang Wen was stunned and asked subconsciously, there are thousands of rebels there, and there are heavy weapons. Can you do it alone? Leng Feng smiled calmly and said, leader, how can we know if we don't try? Anyway, there is no better way now. Wang Wen frowned. Indeed, as Leng Feng said, this is a civil war in another country, and country Z cannot intervene directly, otherwise it will be regarded by other countries as interfering in the affairs of other countries, causing a very bad impact. At this time, Lin Yuan suddenly said, Leng Feng, it's good that you have this heart, which shows that you have not forgotten your responsibilities as a soldier, but, no need. Leng Feng was stunned and hurriedly said, Chief, I'm not afraid of death. Lin Yuan shook his head, stepped forward and patted Leng Feng on the shoulder, and said, you are great, but we can't let our people sacrifice in vain. As for the geological team, don't worry, the country has decided to send out mechas to save them. Leng Feng opened his mouth wide. Although he was abroad, he still knew that mechas had been built in China and had experienced combat. Wang Wen, who was standing beside him, was shocked and asked hurriedly, Colonel Lin, are you telling the truth? Does the country want to directly intervene in the civil war in the Republic of Syria? Even the mechas were deployed, which was no different from directly intervening in the civil war. Lin Yuan nodded and smiled. If it was a few days ago, the country might still have concerns in this regard, but just this morning, the leader of the rebels announced to the public that all the agreements signed by the original government would be invalidated. For country Z, this kind of civil war, even if you fight with your pig brains, country Z will not care, as long as it can guarantee its own interests. Similar things have happened before. The rebels made trouble and changed the world, but the original agreement was still in effect, and even the rebels did not dare to attack foreign capital industries such as mining. And now, I don't know what the rebel leader has done, and he actually announced that he would invalidate all agreements, which directly harms the interests of country Z of course. Country Z cannot ignore it. So we intervened. Lin Yuan continued, originally, you guys were fighting among yourselves, and you could handle it as you wished. But now you suddenly want to stir up trouble, and not let everyone get along. Then we can only step in, and teach you a lesson. And Consul Wang, the current Z country is different from the past. We intervened. Who can do anything to us? It's not a good international impact. Who cares? Wang Wen's eyes widened. He had been a consul abroad for several years. When did the country become so arrogant? As for Leng Feng, he was even more dazed, and then proud. He felt that the country had become stronger. The next morning, a supply ship arrived at the port. On the cruise ship, many people were relaxing on the deck, and they saw two huge iron boxes on the supply ship. What is that? I don't know. Leng Feng, who was also on the deck, suddenly thought of something. Mecha, it must be a mecha. Soon, the iron box slowly opened, revealing two mechas painted in desert camouflage. The mighty and fierce appearance, coupled with the paint job that did not continue the fine tradition of country Z, which was not rustic but powerful, was simply so handsome. The Chinese people on the deck were stunned and cheered. Some people even cried with joy. Two pilots also appeared and boarded the mecha at the same time. Then the mecha started, and a blue light sprayed out from under their feet. They jumped up and landed directly on the port. At the port, an 8-man Marine Corps team was ready. They took 2 warriors and a truck. The truck was carrying a large amount of supplies, the most of which was the black mecha battery compartment, which could ensure that the mecha could fight for a long time. Lin Yuan suddenly appeared beside Leng Feng and said, Comrade Leng Feng, I heard that you are doing business in Bucharest and are very familiar with the situation there. How about it? Are you willing to follow the Marines into Bucharest? They are not familiar with the situation there and may need your help. Of course, with the mecha here, you don't have to worry about your safety. Leng Feng was stunned, saluted quickly, and said, I guarantee to complete the mission. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 Bold Idea. In a story building about 1 kilometer away from the port, a tall man was watching the port through a high-definition telescope in the second floor window. Next to him was a notebook, which recorded some things from time to time. At this time, the man saw the appearance of a supply ship, and then saw mechas appearing into large iron boxes. Feldo, come here quickly, you won't believe what I saw. It's a mecha from Country Z. The man exclaimed. On the bed in the room, there was a bearded man lying on the bed, turning a dagger between his fingers. Hearing his companion's words, he quickly got up and pulled down the window to check. It's really a mecha. What is Country Z going to do? Is it going to directly intervene in the civil war of the Republic of Syria? The bearded man frowned, quickly took out his mobile phone, and reported what he saw. The two were KGB agents. Soon, the intelligence of Country Z's deployment of mechas was placed in front of the president of Country E. President Dmitry suddenly had a bold idea. What do you think would happen if the mechas of Country Z were captured or destroyed in the enemy's battlefield? Everyone's eyes lit up. That's a good idea. If we get the mechas, even if they are just wreckage, we can still research a lot of things. But we must not let Country Z know that we did it. By the way, we can use mercenaries and provide them with weapons. We must act quickly, otherwise it will be difficult to do anything after the other party completes the mission and evacuates. Mechas are still a unique technology of Country Z who in the world doesn't want them, but mechas are too mysterious. They have only appeared twice and have never been deployed again. In the territory of Country Z, don't even think about it. You can't even contact them. But now it is the chaotic Republic of Syria, and anything can happen. Very good, let's do it. At the same time, not only the intelligence organizations of Country E, but also those of Country M, also obtained the information that Country Z had deployed mechas to carry out missions. Pear's first reaction was that this was a good thing. He was just worrying about how to discredit Country Z. Now you are sending out a mecha and interfering in other countries' affairs. Isn't this just giving people a chance to criticize you and giving yourself a chance? He was just about to arrange someone to spread the news and then use diplomatic channels to hype it up and discredit Country Z when the Minister of Defense suddenly put forward a very suggestive opinion. Mr. President, what if we secretly take the mecha back? What? Pear was stunned, but his eyes became brighter and brighter. After a while, he slammed the table and roared, "You are so fucking smart. Yes, let's do it." He stood up and took 2 steps on the spot. Pear said, "But people can't know that we did this. Blackwater Company, use their people. We provide equipment and intelligence support. Tell their boss, I don't care how much they lose, as long as we can get the mecha. How much money? Let him name any price." Soon, the action against the 2 mechas began to be implemented. A large number of mercenaries suddenly received the mission, and the price was so high that it was impossible to refuse. And the largest mercenary company, Blackwater Company, also came out in full force. Ordinary mercenaries are basically retired special forces soldiers, while powerful mercenaries, in addition to their amazing quality, also have heavy weapons. Like Blackwater, they have small missiles, armed helicopters, heavy tanks, and infantry fighting vehicles. It is no exaggeration to say that the combat power of Blackwater alone can crush many African countries. At the same time, Leng Feng also went out with a team. The captain of the Marine Corps is called Jiang Wu, who is a meticulous and kind person. As soon as he got in the car, he discussed the specific action plan with Leng Feng. According to the last intelligence from the consulate, the geological team is at the Camille Hotel in the western part of the city. That area was the first place occupied by the rebels. No one knows the specific situation. From the satellite images, many buildings in that area have become ruins. No one knows whether the geological team is trapped in the hotel or has escaped for some reason. Our first stop is to go to the hotel. But in this case, we have to cross the battle line between the 2 armies along the way. According to our intelligence, the government army plans to launch a counterattack today to retake Bucharest. At this time, the fighting should have started. Leng Feng carefully examined the map and selected a route based on the satellite images. Because they have a car, they must be able to pass the car. There are thousands of people, and we are just one team. It's very dangerous. In fact, the wisest way is not to enter the city first. After determining the exact location of the geological team, we can act again. Leng Feng said. Jiang Wu smiled and said, of course it's dangerous, but we have mechas, so it's not a big problem. Leng Feng couldn't help but turn his head to look at the mechas running along the sides of the convoy and said with emotion, I really can't believe it in my dreams that our country has developed mechas. Don't talk about you, who can think of it, but the person who should be thanked the most is Mr. Zhou. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have mechas. Jiang Wu said. Mr. Zhou Yang. I know him. He's often reported in the news, but he looks too young in the photos. Leng Feng said. Jiang Wu nodded and said, Mr. Zhou is a little young. I heard from Chen Jinsheng that Mr. Zhou is not only young, but also very kind. He doesn't have the airs of a great scientist at all. By the way, Chen Jinsheng is the driver of number 1. He has met Mr. Zhou. Leng Feng looked at the two mechas and said enviously, I don't know if I will have the opportunity to drive a mecha in my life. You said that as if everyone doesn't want to, but don't think about it in the short term. This thing is precious. There are not many in the country. Can ordinary people be selected from millions of soldiers to drive them? Jiang Wu said. After chatting for more than an hour, the convoy approached Bucharest. It was a little difficult to move on the road because there were refugees fleeing everywhere. The two mechas were afraid of trouble, so they jumped on the truck. The refugees around them saw the mechas on the truck and showed expressions as if they saw aliens. This thing is really too sci-fi. Soon, a checkpoint appeared in front. The guarding officer shouted, put away your guns, they are from country Z. He took the initiative to meet the convoy, but his eyes could not help but fall on the two mechas on the trucks. Compared with the mechas, the soldiers holding titanics looked like primitive people. We have received orders from our superiors to allow you to enter the city and perform rescue missions, but there is a battle in the city. Are you sure you want to go in? The officer said. Jiang Wu looked at Bucharest in the distance, where black smoke was billowing, and there were faint explosions. The battle had begun. Chapter 191 Justice Gatling. Two mechas jumped off the truck and escorted the convoy. The convoy continued to set off along the road into the city and soon arrived in the city. Here, traces of battles can be seen everywhere. Jiang Wu and others were also extremely alert, and their eyes swept through every blind spot to prevent the appearance of the enemy. Soon, the convoy arrived at the line of fire. On a wide street, dozens of government troops used several abandoned cars that had exploded as cover and were shooting at the rebels hundreds of meters away. Neither side was a well-trained soldier. Most of them were holding axes and shooting randomly. Whether they could shoot the enemy or not depended on luck. It's the Z country. What is that? A robot? It's too sci-fi. Many government soldiers looked at the two mechas, almost sluggish. Compared with the equipment of Z country, they were like savages poking each other with fire sticks. Captain, this road is blocked. What should we do? Go around it? Asked the team member who was driving. The situation can change at any time, and satellite images are not updated at any time. Jiang Wu was holding a map and discussing with Leng Feng. Leng Feng had been doing business in the city for many years and was more familiar with the situation. However, the city was complex. Some roads were accessible on the map, but they might be blocked by fighting. Therefore, it was not easy to find a smooth road. Thinking back to the Black Hawk down in the United States, even if there was a helicopter overhead to guide the way, they were still wandering around in the city like a headless fly. At this time, the number 1 mecha suddenly opened the mask, revealing Chen Jinsheng's smiling face, and said, Captain Jiang, don't panic. You are here to assist us in carrying out the mission this time. We are here. This time, the mission was mainly based on two mechas. Jiang Wu's Marine Corps was mainly responsible for assistance, as well as peripheral alerts. Finally, they helped transport supplies and used cars to bring the geological team out. Jiang Wu was stunned, and then he remembered that Lin Yuan's order before departure was indeed based on mechas, and Chen Jinsheng's rank was higher than his. "Chief, what should we do now?" Jiang Wu asked. Chen Jinsheng said, "Let me check the situation first." As he spoke, a wedge-shaped module on his shoulder suddenly ejected and suddenly emitted a light blue light in the air, like a light swallow, flying into the sky. "Is this a drone?" Leng Feng exclaimed. "Yes, it's a small drone." Chen Jinsheng introduced that the mecha had been completed long ago, but it had not been mass-produced. The reason was that the higher-ups recognized Zhou Yang's idea. The current mecha was just a transitional model, and there was still a lot of room for improvement. So during this period of time, Wanghu Village Research Institute and Northern Industry have been improving the mecha, adding many module functions, and specially developing many suitable weapons. Reconnaissance drones are one of them. Although this drone is only a few dozen centimeters in size, it is extremely powerful. It has an ultra-high-definition lens, a channel module for special channels, and 4 ultra-small particle thrusters to control flight. With the high power of the Lungsam battery, it can be used for more than 3 hours. The drone soared into the sky and flew quickly in the urban area. The exchange of fire below was clearly visible and transmitted back to the control system of the mecha in real time. "Dajin, help me plan a road," Chen Jinsheng said. The control system of the mecha was no longer controlled by Fuxi, but replaced by a fixed artificial intelligence. Chen Jinsheng named him Dajin, and he has been working with him for a long time to understand his operation and combat habits. The pictures taken back were quickly turned into a 3-dimensional graphic of the city under the real-time rendering of artificial intelligence. Moreover, the drone also has infrared thermal imaging function, and all the enemies in the city are marked on the graphics. In an instant, artificial intelligence helped the mecha plan a road, which was exactly the road in front of it. The main roads are in fighting, and detours will also involve fighting, and it will also waste time, Dajin said. Chen Jinsheng gestured to the second mecha. The driver of the second mecha is Wang Zifu. On the battlefield, the mechas can be organized into a combat team and share data links. Wang Zifu also saw the pictures taken by the drone. Then just do it directly. Anyway, the superior's order also said that the rebels can be attacked, and these rebels are burning, killing, and looting. It's time to teach them a lesson, Wang Zifu said. He had seen that the dead bodies could be seen everywhere on both sides of the street ahead. Some were soldiers from both sides, but more were innocent civilians. These rebels were simply a group of thugs. The superior's orders also said that if possible, they should be killed to help the government army. Then do it. Chen Jinsheng came to the truck behind, reached out and grabbed a huge equipment box, opened it, and inside was a rotary machine gun, commonly known as the Justice Gatling. "Get out of the way." Holding the Gatling, Chen Jinsheng walked straight to the scene of the exchange of fire. Many government soldiers looked at each other and quickly got out of the way. Chen Jinsheng, on the other hand, walked to the opposite side with a swagger, and soon he was exposed to the rebels' vision. "Oh my god, what is that? Robot, it's a robot. Where did the robot come from?" Many rebels looked at the 2-meter tall, almost sci-fi mecha, and were all dumbfounded. The rebel officers were surprised and shouted, "What, are you still in a daze? Attack me quickly." A large number of bullets poured over. Chen Jinsheng didn't even try to dodge. Sparks burst out from his body, clanking. At this time, the Gatling gun in his hand began to rotate, and a tongue of fire spread out. 7 or 8 rebel soldiers hiding in the middle of the road and behind abandoned cars were the first to be hit. Their bodies were instantly torn apart by bullets and turned into a pile of meat paste. The originally scrapped car seemed to have been cut again and turned into pieces. The flames spread, and the rebel soldiers hiding behind pillars, corners, and behind the ruins of buildings. The bunkers in front of them were like paper, and they were completely vulnerable. The people in the bunkers were all blasted into slag. The Gatling gun in Chen Jinsheng's hand was a large 15mm caliber Gatling gun carried by the fighter plane. It can be said to be a Gatling gun. How can ordinary people resist its power? Moreover, the mecha also has thermal imaging function. With the drone above, all the rebel soldiers were marked clearly. Chen Jinsheng just swept them over, and it was over. After half a minute, Chen Jinsheng, who had poured thousands of bullets, finally stopped. The gunpowder smoke from the muzzle enveloped him. The street across the street was in ruins, with no one alive. A total of 56 rebels were killed. Chen Jinsheng gestured, signaling Jiang Wu and others to continue moving forward. Jiang Wu shuddered violently, came back to his senses, and gritted his teeth and said, "Damn, I heard that this mecha is abnormal, but now I know that it is simply a humanoid killing machine. It's too scary." Leng Feng next to him also had a dull face, and a huge wave of emotions rose in his heart. Is this a mecha? With such combat power, wouldn't it be invincible on the battlefield? Chapter 192 Rescue. 1,000 meters above the city, a global Hawk reconnaissance plane was hovering. Since the convoy set out, it has been keeping an eye on the convoy and sending real-time information about the convoy back to the headquarters. In the headquarters, Colonel Bradley Wall was in charge of the frontline command. He was from the Defense Intelligence Agency. Next to Bradley was a gloomy middle-aged man named Tasinkle. This guy was the head of the CIA's Continental Affairs Department and had great authority. On the big screen in front of the two, the images sent back by the Global Hawk were being played. In the image, it can be clearly seen that the number 1 mecha walked to the center of the crossfire, with flames bursting from its body and withstanding countless bullets. Then the mecha opened fire, and in just 30 seconds, the rebels on the opposite side were completely wiped out. Many soldiers present took a breath of cold air. Many people have seen the video of the mecha's first battle, but in that video, the mecha did not actively fight, but was passively defensive. Now, it is truly participating in a battle, and the combat effectiveness it has demonstrated is simply despairing. Bradley cursed, "Damn, this thing is simply invincible against infantry. It has the same flexibility as infantry, and the defense and mobility of a tank. It can fly. How can people fight it?" An officer next to him said, "The only way is to cover it with firepower and use various missiles to blow it into pieces." Bradley glanced at him and said, "It's as if they don't have missiles. Don't forget that wars are now fought on war systems. In the same war system, you have missiles and others have missiles, but mechas can become superior military units and cause huge damage under the blessing of the system. The best way to deal with mechas is of course, to bombard them with missiles. But this thing, you have it, and others have it, and they are evenly matched, and mechas are still at an advantage. That's why there is no way to fight it." Tozin next to him said, "Okay, this thing is very powerful, but if it becomes our thing, it will be even more perfect. Their target should be that geological team. How is it? Where is the Black Arrow? How long will it take to rescue the people?" "That's right, rescue them." Tozin had Blackwater dispatch a special team to rescue the geological team. According to CIA intelligence, all the members of the geological team fell into the hands of the rebels. The rebels declared that all the agreements of the original government were invalid. They were also afraid of retaliation from Country Z, so they took the geological team hostage. On the M side, the target was not the members of the geological team, but the mechas, and the members of the geological team could be used as bait to lure the mechas into their trap. So after Tozin received the order from his superiors, he immediately sent people from Blackwater to rescue the members of the geological team. The operation was led by an 8-member team codenamed Black Arrow. These people were basically former Navy SEALs and former Delta Force members. They participated in battles between countries in Continent F for many years and had extremely rich combat experience. "I'll contact them now." A soldier hurriedly contacted the other party. Soon, the communicator was connected. "We have arrived at the presidential palace and are approaching." Barrowman, the leader of the Black Arrow team, said. Satellite images were also displayed on the big screen. This time, the intelligence support was provided by the United States. The high-definition infrared thermal imaging satellite showed the situation around the presidential palace very clearly. Why are there so many people?" Tozin was stunned and immediately found that there were 6 people approaching the Black Arrow team quickly. "Barrowman, be careful, there are people coming at your 5 o'clock direction. 6 people, standard tactical marching movements, not rebels." Tozin shouted hurriedly. The 6 people on the other side were marching close to the building. During the march, you can clearly see their skilled positioning, ensuring that they can maintain the visual control of the front, back, left and right. At first glance, they are not ordinary people. Those rebel soldiers who were holding axes and shooting randomly did not have such military literacy. The presidential palace is located in the center of Bucharest. It is the only 2-3-story European-style buildings in the city, but at this moment, it has become extremely dilapidated, and half of the building has collapsed. 200 meters away from the presidential palace, under a broken wall, Barrowman and his Black Arrow team were quietly lurking. Hearing Tozin's words on the communicator, Barrowman's face changed instantly. He turned around quickly and made a few quick gestures to indicate that there were people behind him. 8 people quickly entered combat status and each looked for cover. The machine gunner also set up his machine gun. 5 seconds later, a team of people appeared in the field of vision. Barrowman poked his head out and took a look. He recognized the bearded man who led the 6-man team at a glance. Fuck, it's the Bloodlions. Barrowman cursed inwardly. The other team members were also shocked. Why are they here? Are they the helpers invited by the rebels? What should we do now? Attack. The Bloodlions are a relatively famous mercenary group. The bearded man opposite is called Chris. He is the head of the Bloodlions and a major of the former F Foreign Legion. The 6-member Bloodlion team on the opposite side also sensed a strange and murderous aura as if by telepathy. Chris, who was walking in the front, quickly raised his hand and clenched his fist. The 5 people behind him quickly hid in the bunkers, and their military literacy was amazing. Mr. Anoff, we have arrived near the presidential palace. Do you have satellite images? Chris asked in a low voice in the communicator, hiding behind a pile of building ruins. A man's voice came from the headset. I sent it to you. Be careful. There are people in front of you. Chris was startled. There were people in front of him. There was indeed an ambush. He quickly opened the PDA on his wrist to check. The satellite image showed that there were indeed people in front of them, about 15 meters away. Chris glanced through the gap in the building ruins and frowned slightly. He felt that the people on the opposite side did not seem to be rebel soldiers, because rebel soldiers would not ambush so well. Want to go together? Chris frowned. They received a list from the E-government to rescue the geological team. Since they were nearby, they were the first team to arrive. Captain, what should we do? Should we kill them? A team member asked in a low voice. Chris fell into deep thought. Barrowman on the opposite side also reacted instantly. They were discovered. He gritted his teeth and shouted, Chris, long time no see, I'm Barrowman. Chris on the opposite side was shocked. It turned out to be him. Barrowman continued, you are here too. It seems that our purpose is the same. Now that the people have not been rescued, there is no need for us to fight first. How about we evacuate separately? Chris hesitated for a moment and said, okay, let's go south. Chris didn't expect that he would meet an old acquaintance. And as Barrowman said, since the purpose is the same, there is no need to fight first, since the people have not been rescued. But at this moment, a series of gunshots suddenly came from the presidential palace. Both of them were shocked. There are still people. Chapter 193, Strong Attack. In the command center, Tozin frowned. To the north of the presidential palace, a team of 12 people also appeared and started exchanging fire with the rebels guarding the presidential palace. There are quite a few rebels near the presidential palace, more than 100 of them. Whose side are they? Isn't this alerting the enemy? Tozin slammed his fist on the table angrily. What is a special force? It means to act secretly, sneak in, and complete the mission. No matter how powerful the special forces are, they are not gods. No matter how weak these rebels are, the bullets fired from their guns can kill people. In the face of absolute numerical advantage, the special forces are useless. And this team of unknown origin, whether it was intentional or because of its poor level, was discovered by the rebels directly. The exchange of fire immediately alerted the rebels, and things became difficult. You know, there are quite a few rebels. Although the main forces of the 3 regiments are fighting the government forces on the front line, there is still a battalion of troops as a reserve 500 meters away from the presidential palace. Bradley's face was not looking good either. The original plan was for the Black Arrow team to sneak in quietly, rescue the geological team, and finally bring them to the trap they had set up in advance, using Blackwater's superior forces, to complete the goal of capturing the Mecha. But who would have thought that before they took action, they would run into other mercenaries, and what happened in front of them? Thinking quickly, Bradley said, the only way now is to use Blackwater's superior forces to eliminate the rebels, and take the people away before Country Z reacts. Tozin nodded. Blackwater was already taking action and said, "Then let them send 3 helicopters to kill these barbarians." At the same time, Tozin immediately said to the communicator, "Barrowman, act quickly." Near the presidential palace, Barrowman stood up directly. A dozen meters away, Chris and his group also stood up at the same time. The two teams looked at each other and rushed to the presidential palace at the same time. Inside the presidential palace, the leader of the rebels, Jarrett, was a middle-aged man with a ferocious appearance. He was standing in a hidden position on the second floor, watching the battle to the north of the presidential palace. "Who are they?" Jarrett frowned. It was obvious that they were not ordinary soldiers. They had amazing military skills and were equipped with excellent weapons and equipment. The deputy next to him observed for a while and said, "They seem to be mercenaries." In the battle below, the team of 12 had been suppressed. For his own safety, Jarrett kept hundreds of people around him. No matter how high the military skills of the 12 people were, they would not be opponents in a head-on battle against superior forces. Could it be that they are mercenaries hired by Country Z who want to rescue their people? Go, bring those Country Z people to me quickly, and call the front line at the same time to ask the 3rd Regiment to come back for support. There are also people in the reserve team. How long will it take for them to come? Jarrett felt a strong sense of uneasiness. From the moment the agreement was announced to be invalid, he had a premonition that Country Z would take action. At this time, he could not care about the battle on the front line. He first pulled back a regiment of soldiers. A regiment of thousands of people was enough to ensure his own safety. "We'll be there soon." On the streets in the east, a large number of soldiers were rushing over and soon approached. A pickup truck in the front row was equipped with a recoilless gun. It immediately loaded bullets and aimed at the 12 mercenaries. After one shot and several RPGs, the 12-man team immediately suffered casualties. At this time, Barrowman and his team also began to approach from the southwest of the presidential palace. In fact, in this situation, they should have evacuated. But the order from above was to fight at all costs, so they could only fight head-on. Fortunately, the rebels' attention was attracted by the enemy in the north. The team of 6 quickly advanced and arrived at a side door behind the presidential palace. Barrowman made a gesture, and a team member immediately stepped forward to install C4. A few seconds later, there was a loud bang, and the side door was blown open. At this time, Chris and his team also appeared and said, "Let's act together and bring the people out first." Barrowman's mind raced, and he nodded quickly. The two teams in the first team, 16 people, rushed in like lightning. Tozin's voice came from the headset. "The people have been taken to the second floor." Another Global Hawk also arrived in time, taking over the reconnaissance satellite that had lost its angle and detected through thermal imaging that the 17 geological team members were taken to the second floor. These 17 people were detained together, so it was still easy to identify them. Second floor. Barrowman pulled the trigger, and 10 meters away, a rebel who had just poked his head out exploded with a ball of blood and died instantly, and then made a gesture. The group quickly moved to the second floor. These people are indeed top special forces, with amazing military quality. Any rebel who appeared in the field of vision was shot and killed before they could react. Moreover, they were all silenced weapons, and coupled with the chaos of the battle in the north, no one noticed that someone had lurked in. However, the more troublesome thing was that, if you want to go to the second floor, you can only go up the spiral staircase in the center of the first floor. On this side, after turning around the corridor, Barrowman found a large number of soldiers at the spiral staircase. Gritting his teeth, Barrowman said, "Strike. Time is tight, and there is no time to consider other methods." 14 people rushed out at the same time. The 2 machine gunners fired at the same time, and the bullets poured down like a waterfall. The more than 20 soldiers in front of the stairs were standing too close. Facing the sudden attack, they had no time to dodge, and many of them were torn in half. Jarrett on the second floor suddenly shuddered, and instantly pulled out a pistol, saying, "There are still people, they are downstairs." The deputy's face changed drastically. He also heard the dense gunfire coming from downstairs. With a wave of his hand, more than a dozen guards on the second floor rushed to the stairs and threw grenades directly down. Barrowman and others who were rushing up changed their faces and turned around and jumped to both sides. There were several explosions. Fortunately, the stairs were made of marble. If they were made of wood, they would have been blown off directly. Leave 2 people to guard. The people outside want to come in. Barrowman shouted. Okay. Chris shouted from the opposite side. The 4 people stayed, and the 2 machine gunners also stayed to suppress the fire. Barrowman and his men quickly rushed upstairs. The moment they reached out, Barrowman fired a string of bullets, and 2 rebel soldiers fell in a pool of blood. In the end, Barrowman and his men rushed to the 2nd floor. After a battle, both teams suffered casualties, but with their strong military qualities, they still defeated all the soldiers. Downstairs, a fight had also broken out. At this moment, Jarrett's voice came from the room. Don't come in. I know you are here for these Z people. If you dare to come in, I will kill people. Barrowman, however, acted as if he didn't hear it, and led the team into the room. When they came, they had considered that it was impossible to take all 17 people away. Taking 1 or 2 away would have the same effect as taking 17 away. So they didn't care at all that Jarrett shot the hostages. Chapter 194, The Arrival of the Mecha. Barrowman rushed forward and knocked the door open with his shoulder. At the same time, he shouted, Nathan, shoot. Almost at the same moment, on the roof of a 2-story building hundreds of meters away from the presidential palace, a soldier was lying on his stomach with a sniper rifle in front of him. His name was Nathan, and he was a sniper from the Black Arrow Squad. Through the scope, you can see the situation in the room on the 2nd floor. 17 members of the geological team were sitting on the ground in panic, huddled together. On this side of the door, there were 8 soldiers with their guns pointed at the door. At the same time, there should be 2 more people on the hostage side, one of whom was Jarrett, but Nathan could only see a hand holding a pistol. Time was running out, and there was no time to find a shooting angle. Nathan aimed at the arm holding the gun, and at Barrowman's order, he pulled the trigger without hesitation. The gun went off, and in the scope, the arm was directly broken by a large caliber bullet, and the broken hand flew out holding the pistol, and blood spurted out. The door was also directly knocked open by Barrowman, and the moment it was knocked open, he rolled on the ground. The 8 soldiers fired reflexively, but Barrowman dodged them. Barrowman had not yet stood up completely when he had already fired. At the same time, a stun grenade was thrown in from behind him. Boom. A dazzling white light flashed by, and the 8 soldiers subconsciously covered their heads. Outside the door, Chris and others had already leaned out and fired. In a moment, all 8 soldiers fell to the ground. Barrowman was also affected. He shook his head and tried to stand up. He vaguely saw a figure jumping out of the window from the 2nd floor. It's Jarrett. He jumped off the building. Nathan shouted in the headset. The deputy and Jarrett fell down from the 2nd floor at the same time. Barrowman shook his head fiercely and gritted his teeth and said, Don't worry about that guy. The hostages are important. Tozin, support is here. Without support, we can't leave at all. The hostages were rescued, but there were more than 300 people outside. 1 shot per person, and they were all dead. I'll be there soon. Tozin's urgent voice came from the headset. At this time, Barrowman gradually recovered, and the remaining team members and Chris rushed in. Barrowman looked at Chris and said, 1 on each side. As he spoke, he swept his eyes over the hostages, who were dizzy from the blast, and quickly pointed at a thin woman. Compared with men, thin women are easier to take away. A team member stepped forward and quickly pressed the woman's neck. The woman fainted instantly, and then he carried her directly on his shoulders. And Chris also quickly picked a relatively thin woman. As for the remaining hostages, they could not take care of them. Quickly retreat, the rebels are surrounding us. Nathan shouted in the headset. Downstairs, in the middle of many soldiers, Jarrett, who had a broken hand, was jumping in pain, and his expression was crazy. Fire, blow them all to death. The recoilless gun aimed at the 2nd floor, loaded directly, and fired with a bang. At this time, Jarrett could not care about the safety of the hostages. He had only one idea in his mind, to kill everyone. But at this moment, a beam of light descended from the sky and appeared on the 2nd floor at an incredible speed. With a bang, the flames exploded, but the 2nd floor was intact. In the smoke of the explosion, a tall mecha revealed its true appearance. At the same time, another mecha fell from the sky and landed in front of 2 soldiers holding RPGs and aiming at the 2nd floor. The huge sword swept across and slapped them with the sword. Boom. The two soldiers were directly slapped away, flying dozens of meters away, and before they landed, they had already turned into a pool of mud. At this moment, the battlefield unexpectedly became extremely quiet. All the rebel soldiers looked at the two mechas with dull expressions. On the second floor in the distance, Nathan screamed, "Go, the mechas are coming." Inside the second floor, Barrowman shuddered. His whole body seemed to be electrified, and he felt like he wanted to pee. Mecha, the god of death is coming. In the mecha in the air, Chen Jinsheng glanced at the recoilless gun on the ground with contempt, turned around and smashed through the window with a bang, and entered the second floor. With a fixed gaze, Chen Jinsheng saw the woman on the shoulders of Barrowman's men, and shouted coldly, "Put her down, I will give you a quick death." But a few minutes ago, Chen Jinsheng had just cleared the enemies on the street, and the convoy was about to move forward, when he suddenly received the latest intelligence from the headquarters. Not only did M country have satellites, but Z country also had satellites. The exchange of fire on the presidential palace was quickly discovered by the reconnaissance satellite. After screening, it was immediately determined that the hostages were here. At the same time, the headquarters also noticed that someone was storming the presidential palace. Fearing that the hostages would be in trouble, they immediately notified Chen Jinsheng and asked him to rush to the presidential palace to rescue the hostages. "You stay alert and wait for our notification." Leaving a word, Chen Jinsheng nodded to Wang Zifu, and the two of them soared into the sky at the same time and rushed to the presidential palace. When they arrived, they happened to catch up with the recoilless gun firing. Chen Jinsheng arrived just in time and rescued the hostages on the second floor. On the second floor, Barrowman's men immediately pointed their guns at the woman on his shoulders and shouted, "Don't come over, I'll shoot if you come over." Barrowman looked at the 2-meter-tall sci-fi mecha and felt his whole body trembling uncontrollably. He whispered, "What should I do? Tell me what to do." In the command center, Bradley had already seen two mechas appear and angrily punched the table. The plan failed. The 3 helicopters coming to support were still a few kilometers away, and it would take at least a minute. In a minute, by the time they come, the opportunity will be gone. But at this time, Tozin suddenly said, "There is still hope. Look, they ran away." He pointed at Chris's team on the screen. Chris and his team took the people and ran away. At this time, they had already run to the first floor and were about to run out of the presidential palace. This team should have the same goal as us. Let the Blackwater people rescue them. Anyway, our goal is the same. Just lead the mecha into the trap, Tozin said hurriedly. Bradley's eyes lit up. He speculated that this team should be sent by country ESO supporting them, or directly snatching people from them would have the same result. As for Barrowman and his group, they didn't care about their lives. On the second floor, Chen Jinsheng stood quietly, but in the eyepiece, the intelligence system had locked onto the 3 people in front of him, especially the guy carrying the hostage. The next moment, a fist-sized bulge suddenly shot out from the left shoulder of the mecha. In an instant, a hot and strong light burst out from the bulge, like a flash bomb. Barrowman and the other 2 subconsciously closed their eyes and reached out to cover their eyes reflexively. And at this moment, the mecha moved, and the sword in its hand slashed out like lightning. The target, the guy carrying the hostage. With one sword, the guy was directly split in half from head to tail. Chapter 195, Just to Apaches. Blood spurted out, and the air was filled with a strong smell of blood. Barrowman was so scared that he dared not move. Under such absolute power, he had lost the ability to resist. Chen Jinsheng did not intend to let him go, and kicked him. With a bang, Barrowman seemed to be hit head on by a train, and he knocked a big hole in the opposite wall, and disappeared without a trace. Chen Jinsheng stepped forward, helped the woman who fell to the ground, and pierced the body of the last person with a backhanded sword. This flash module is not bad, Chen Jinsheng said to himself. With the efforts of the Research Institute and North Industry, all kinds of strange module functions have been developed, such as the strong light module used in the situation just now. In addition to having the same effect as a flash bomb, it can also be used for lighting at night. There are even some double swords combined into one sword divided into 2 swords, and a flying knife launch module hidden on the forearm. Anyway, according to Zhou Yang's instructions, try it. No one knows what the most powerful mecha is like and how to improve combat effectiveness. Just do it. Chen Jinsheng was slightly stunned when he looked at the hostages underground. There was one missing. I'm a soldier from country Z. Chen Jinsheng opened his mask and revealed the face of a compatriot. The members of the geological team were first detained and then hit by stun bombs. They had experienced all kinds of exciting things. They had no idea how many times they had been between life and death. Those with weak resistance had already fainted. Only a few were still awake. When they heard Chen Jinsheng's words, they cried with joy. Thank you so much. We all thought we were dead this time. Don't worry, the motherland will never give up any of you. Chen Jinsheng smiled and asked, by the way, there should be 17 of you. How come there is one missing? A middle-aged man reacted and pointed outside and said, just now they had another team that took Zhou Yang away. What? There is another team? Chen Jinsheng was shocked and said quickly, Dajin, search for me. The drone module was hovering in the sky outside. Wang Zifu also said, there are none in the north. At this time, Wang Zifu stood proudly among hundreds of rebels with a sharp sword in his hand and frightened hundreds of rebels so much that they dared not move. Jared was also scared to death. Of course, he knew that country Z had mechas, but he had never seen them with his own eyes. He always felt that this thing was exaggerated. No matter how powerful it was probably just like a tank. A tank would be destroyed by a few RPGs. Moreover, Jared believed that country Z would not interfere in the civil war of the Republic of Syria, but he never expected that country Z would not only interfere, but also send mechas, and the key point was that this mecha was so powerful. Seeing Wang Zifu turned around, Jared quickly shrank his body and prepared to sneak away. But Wang Zifu seemed to have eyes on his back and turned around and stabbed him with a sword. The giant sword pierced the air, making a sharp whistling sound, and pierced Jared's body. The superior meant that this arrogant person who wanted to challenge country Z should be taught a lesson. The rebel soldiers around held their breath, afraid to breathe, fearing that the next Jared would be him. Wang Zifu leaped, activated the thrusters, and jumped directly onto the second floor of the presidential palace. He quickly scanned the surrounding urban area and locked onto Chris's team in the ruins of a building a few dozen meters away. One of the soldiers was carrying a woman on his shoulders. I'll chase them, Wang Zifu said, and jumped to chase. But in the air, a missile suddenly appeared in front of him, dragging a hot tail flame at high speed, and the target was Wang Zifu. Wang Zifu's reaction was also very fast, but the artificial intelligence's reaction was faster, raising the sword and slashing directly. No matter how fast a person's reaction speed is, it is not faster than artificial intelligence, so in the face of such a sudden attack, artificial intelligence will take over the mecha in a short time and complete the defensive action. Boom. The explosion engulfed Wang Zifu. The sharp sword split the missile, but the impact force could not be resolved. Wang Zifu, who was in the air, was blasted backwards and hit the roof hard. 1,000 meters away, 3 helicopters were approaching at high speed. 2 Apaches and 1 Black Hawk. The air-to-air missile fired at Wang Zifu was fired by the Apache. With a loud bang, the roof was broken, and Chen Jinsheng jumped onto the roof. Are you okay? It's okay. Wang Zifu stood up and looked at the 2 Apaches. He actually laughed and said, interesting, when did the rebels with axe have Apaches? Don't worry about it. We only have one mission, which is to rescue the geological team and bring everyone home safely. Chen Jinsheng pulled out his shield and said, go down and guard the people of the geological team. I have notified Captain Zhou Yang. They will be here soon. You take them to evacuate. Wang Zifu asked, don't you want my help? Chen Jinsheng looked at the 2 Apaches coming at high speed with contempt and said calmly, just 2 Apaches. After that, the thrusters behind him started, and he took the initiative to meet them. He's rushing over. The driver of the 2 Apaches was actually more panicked. This was their first time facing a mecha. Come over here, open fire, shoot them. The co-pilot gritted his teeth and the machine gun swept over like a fire snake. The Apache was equipped with a 30mm machine gun, with a firing rate of more than 600 rounds per minute, which is 10 rounds per second. The power was simply devastating. However, the maneuverability of the mecha exceeded the driver's expectations. The mecha was pushed forward by the thrusters, and all the machine gun bullets were left behind. In just a few seconds, the mecha had approached the first Apache. With a low shout, Chen Jinsheng, who was in the air, threw the giant sword in his hand directly. The giant sword was as fast as lightning, piercing through the cockpit of the Apache, and then piercing out from the tail. Boom. The first Apache disintegrated and exploded in the air. But Chen Jinsheng's attack was not over yet. Driven by the thrusters, the speed increased dramatically and rushed towards the remaining Apache. The driver of this Apache fired an air-to-air missile as a conditioned reflex. But the distance was too close, and the air-to-air missile could not make much maneuvering at all. But the mecha was different. The thrusters on the body at multiple angles allowed it to make incredible aerial maneuvers. The body suddenly rose up, and a missile flew over Chen Jinsheng's feet. Then Chen Jinsheng rushed out like lightning, and with a bang, it landed on the Apache's canopy. In the driver's seat, the two pilots, one in front and one behind, saw the mecha appearing above their heads, and felt scared to death. Chen Jinsheng reached out, and the hard canopy seemed to be made of paper and shattered. Chen Jinsheng grabbed the pilot, and threw him backwards with a force. The guy screamed and danced in the air, and flew probably hundreds of meters away, before he fell into a pile of meat paste. The remaining co-pilot's pants were wet, and he peed in fear. Chen Jinsheng let go, and his body sank suddenly. The air-to-air missile launched, before made a big circle, and appeared in the co-pilot's field of vision. Boom. The second Apache exploded into a ball of fire in the air. In just a dozen seconds, Chen Jinsheng took care of the two Apaches. Chapter 196 Dense Coverage. In the headquarters, everything that happened in the presidential palace was faithfully recorded and transmitted back by Global Hawk. Seeing the three helicopters arrive, Tozin thought that there was a turn of events and hope. But what happened next made Tozin despair. In just over 10 seconds, the two Apaches were eliminated by the Mechas. In front of the Mechas, the armed helicopters had no power to resist. Super strong protection, and this abnormal mobility. How can we fight? Who can be the opponent? Bradley gasped. In the picture, Chen Jinsheng has already rushed to the Black Hawk helicopter. It can be predicted what will happen to the Black Hawk helicopter with even worse combat effectiveness. And the fatal thing is that Chris and his group have no intention of getting on the Black Hawk helicopter. Bradley said dejectedly, the operation failed. I expected the mecha to be very strong, but I didn't expect it to be so strong. It was simply overwhelming. Bradley felt that there was only one way to deal with the mecha, which was to cover a large area of bombing, so that you had no time to escape. No matter how strong the defense was, it would probably not be able to withstand the continuous saturation bombing. But at this moment, Tozin suddenly said, no, there is a way. What way? Bradley was stunned. Tozin said, use M270 to cover this area. This place is within the range of the M270 we deployed. Are you crazy? Bradley was shocked. For this plan, the United States specially provided a large number of equipment to Blackwater. You should know that Blackwater is just a security company after all, and it does not have many military heavy weapons. But in order to complete this plan, the United States bought a batch of equipment from the international arms trading market for Blackwater to use. Otherwise, how could Blackwater have a passion Black Hawk? In addition to military helicopters, the United States also helped Blackwater get a batch of self-propelled artillery and 5 M270 rocket launchers. Although the M270 rocket launcher has been discontinued and is obsolete, its power is that 12 rocket launchers can destroy everything. I'm not crazy. Tozin's face was full of madness. He said, anyway, from the moment we implemented the plan, this matter was a mess. Since this is the case, let's fight to the end and bomb directly. I don't believe that we can't destroy these two mechas and then let them send ground troops to pull back the wreckage of the mechas. The protection of this mecha is not ordinary. It is estimated that we can leave a whole body. Staring at Bradley, Tozin said, you have thought it through. If we really get these two mechas, we will be heroes. Heroes of the country. Do you understand? Bradley's eyes widened, but unconsciously, he nodded slightly and agreed. Chen Jinsheng destroyed two Apaches and rushed directly towards Chris and his group. The last Black Hawk helicopter lowered its altitude, dropped a rope, and signaled Chris and his group to hurry up. But the voice from Chris's earphone told him not to get on the helicopter no matter what. But if he didn't get on, the Mechas behind would catch up. Chris had seen the power of the Mechas. They were simply perverted. Two Apaches were not enough for the Mechas to beat. The weapons they had were probably just to tickle the Mecha. During this period of hesitation, Chen Jinsheng arrived. The giant sword had not been recovered yet, but the shield could still be used as a weapon. Grabbing the edge of the shield, Chen Jinsheng twisted his body and threw it out. Pull up. Quick. The co-pilot screamed. But it was too late. The shield was directly embedded in the middle of the helicopter and instantly detonated the helicopter's fuel tank. Then, Chen Jinsheng fell from the sky and blocked the way of Chris and his group. If you are smart, put the person down, Chen Jinsheng said coldly. Although he spoke in Chinese, Chris did not understand what Chen Jinsheng meant. He nodded quickly and signaled his teammates to put the woman down. They came here to accept the mission and the bounty was extremely high, but if they lost their lives, what would the bounty be of any use? They were just a group of mercenaries, and they didn't need to risk their lives to complete the mission. You are smart. Chen Jinsheng snorted coldly, walked forward, and helped Zhou Yang up from the ground. The mission is completed. Where is Captain Jiang? Chen Jinsheng asked. It's almost there. We'll be there soon. Chen Jinsheng nodded and was about to meet up with Wang Zifu when he suddenly felt something in his heart and turned his head to look at the sky. In the sky, black spots appeared one after another, falling from the sky. In an instant, Chen Jinsheng's heart was pounding, and a strong sense of crisis came over him. Fuck, rocket launchers. Chris also screamed, his face full of despair. Boom boom boom. Rocket launchers fell from the sky one after another, with the presidential palace as a center point, randomly scattered, and the sky-high explosions intertwined and swept everything. Under this uninterrupted bombing coverage, all resistance was so powerless. The presidential palace was instantly reduced to ruins, and the rebel soldiers outside were also torn apart by the blast wave. Hundreds of people were instantly turned into hell on earth, and the attack did not stop. A full 60 rocket launchers fell from the sky, covering the area within a radius of 500 meters several times. Jiang Wu and his party drove to the city center. The mecha is really powerful. It hasn't been long since we found the geological team and completed the mission. Of course, this is a mecha. What do you think? I feel that this thing is invincible on the ground. Not to mention on the ground, it is still invincible in the sky. I don't know when we can drive a mecha. It will only take a few years at most. If this thing is put into service, our special forces will definitely give priority to it. By then, everyone will have one. Many team members were chatting with a relaxed look. At this moment, Leng Feng suddenly shouted, "Look, what is that?" Jiang Wu was startled and looked up. Through the car window, he could see the sky in front of him. Black spots were falling from the sky with hot flames. It's a rocket launcher. The car stopped with an emergency brake. Jiang Wu jumped out of the car in a hurry and looked forward, his face pale. Where did the rockets come from? Are they from the government army? Nonsense. You know how much the government army has. How could they have rockets? Let's go. Jiang Wu got back in the car and headed quickly to the presidential palace. The first wave of attacks lasted for a full minute and a half. 512 tube M270 rocket launchers and 60 rocket launchers plowed the area around the presidential palace again and again. When Jiang Wu and others arrived, they saw a scorched earth in front of them. Hurry up and save people. Jiang Wu ran out like crazy. Save people? How can we save people? In this situation, how can there be any living people? A team member muttered. With dense coverage, who can survive? Leng Feng also ran out. At the entrance of the original presidential palace, there was a huge crater full of broken limbs and arms. In the center of the crater, there was a broken mecha lying on its side, with half of its body gone. Wang Zifu inside was also charred black, and had been baked beyond human form by the high temperature. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes instantly turned red. A bunch of bastards. Jiang Wu roared, and punched the ground. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197, The Price of Blood. Captain, no one is alive. Zhou Yang stood in front of the bomb crater, clenched his fists, and his heart was filled with boundless anger. Who on earth is it? It is impossible for it to be the government army, let alone the rebels. But who else could it be besides them? There are others who have made a move in secret, and they even have heavy weapons such as rocket launchers. Captain, Major Chen is still alive. A team member shouted from a distance. Zhou Yang was stunned and ran over quickly. A mecha was lying on the ground about 400 meters away from the presidential palace. The mecha was full of charred and pitted, but it was still in operation. Leng Feng and several team members were trying hard to turn the mecha over. At this moment, the mecha moved and turned over by itself. The mask suddenly popped open, revealing Chen Jinsheng, who was bleeding from all 7 orifices. And under the mecha, there was a woman curled up, who was Zhou Yang, a member of the geological team who was captured by Chris and others. Major Chen has suffered a serious concussion injury. Please seek medical treatment immediately. A cold voice sounded. It was the voice of artificial intelligence, which took over the mecha directly. Then, the shell of the mecha opened, and Zhou Yang and others hurried forward and carefully carried Chen Jinsheng out. With this movement, Chen Jinsheng woke up slowly, looked at the people in front of him blankly, and murmured, "There is someone under me. How is it? It's okay. It shouldn't be a big problem." The team member in charge of support, and also a medical soldier in the team, quickly checked Zhou Yang's condition and said. But when it was Chen Jinsheng's turn, the medical soldier showed a solemn expression, shook his head slightly to Zhou Yang and whispered, "It's very serious. He must be sent back to the ship." Although there is a mecha protection, the huge impact shock cannot be completely resolved, and it is several rounds of bombing. The damage is even greater. Hurry up and contact the warship, and ask them to send a helicopter over. Zhou Yang said hurriedly. At this time, Dajin suddenly said, "A large number of enemies are detected approaching. Please set up a defense line immediately." Enemy? Zhou Yang was stunned. The eyes of the mecha projected a blue light, forming a holographic projection. The scene in the projection was a scene of a large number of rebel soldiers approaching. The drone module was still in the sky. Although it was blown away by the blast, it was not a big problem, and was still in operation. It's the rebels who withdrew. There are so many people. There is at least a regiment of people here. Everyone's face changed. This should be the rebel headquarters. Now it has been razed to the ground. Jared is probably dead. The rebels will naturally think that they did it, and will definitely attack them. Quick, set up a line of defense, and call for support. Zhou Yang shouted hurriedly. Leng Feng also raised his weapon, and prepared to fight. But at this moment, Dajin suddenly said, "Comrade Leng Feng, I can still fight. If possible, please put on your combat uniform, and control me to fight." Leng Feng was stunned. "Yes, it's you. Among you, your figure is the closest to Major Chen. As for the control problem, I will assist you." Leng Feng was still a little hesitant. Zhou Yang said in a deep voice, "The situation is urgent. Leng Feng, don't think too much, just go ahead." Okay. Leng Feng didn't expect that he would have a chance to control the mecha. Under Dajin's instructions, he took off Chen Jinsheng's combat uniform, took off the key identification bracelet on his watch, and then lay down in the cockpit. The mecha was closed, and all systems were started again. How to control it? Leng Feng asked in a daze. Dajin's voice sounded, "It's very simple. You are the mecha, and the mecha is you. Whatever you do, the mecha will do it." Really? Leng Feng took a deep breath and suddenly jumped up from the ground. With a bang, the mecha knelt on one knee, and then slowly stood up. After a little practice, with the help of the intelligence system, Leng Feng adapted quickly. Coming to the truck, he took off his Justice Gatling, and brought back 2 ammunition boxes. Leng Feng aimed his gun at a street in front. The drone showed that the rebels were only 200 meters away from them. Soon, at the end of the street, the figure of the rebel car appeared. Bullets swept past like a waterfall, and the leading car of the rebels braked to a stop, and the ground in front of them was riddled with bullets. Whoever comes close will die. Leng Feng shouted, and his voice was automatically translated into the language of the Republic of Syria by Dajin. But the next moment, a bullet hit Leng Feng's mask. Then, an RPG also flew over with a huge tail flame. Leng Feng pulled the trigger without saying a word, and bullets began to pour. The car at the end of the street was instantly swept into a sieve, and several soldiers around were also torn into meat paste by bullets. The rebel soldiers who showed up were immediately pressed back. On the other side, rebel soldiers also rushed out, but as soon as they approached, Leng Feng's pile of bullets swept over, and more than a dozen rebel soldiers were immediately torn into pieces. At this moment, accompanied by a few gunshots, Leng Feng's face changed and shouted, "It's the mortar." As he said, he rushed up, and the drone had already marked the mortar position for Leng Feng. Boom. Several mortars fell on the ruins. This was the first round, to correct the angle. Fortunately, no one was injured. The thrusters started, and Leng Feng rushed to the mortar position. In a few seconds, he had arrived. From a high position, the Gatling gun sprayed out angry flames, and hundreds of bullets swept over. In just an instant, the mortar position was completely destroyed, and the surrounding soldiers were also written off. At this time, on the destroyer in the port, Lin Yuan also received the call for help, as soon as possible. "Asshole." Lin Yuan punched the wall angrily. 17 people in the geological team, only one survived. 2 mechas were also damaged, and 2 mecha pilots, 1 died, and 1 was seriously injured. Rocket launcher. Lin Yuan's eyes flashed with a biting light. The helicopter takes off. Let Jiang Wu report the coordinates, and prepare the missiles. Lin Yuan shouted in a deep voice. Launch the missile. Everyone in the command center was shocked. The deputy captain said, "Old Lin, do you want to report to the higher-ups?" "What's there to report? Our people are dead, so anyone who attacks us will pay the price. The price of blood." Lin Yuan gritted his teeth and added, "For every death, you will have to pay 1,000 times more." Dajin's voice rang beside Leng Feng's ears. "Comrade Leng Feng, the command center has sent a message. I have marked the coordinates. The missile is about to be launched. Please help Jiang Wu and others evacuate to a safe area." Leng Feng's face changed slightly, and he quickly landed beside Jiang Wu. Before he could speak, in the distance, a ground-to-ground missile had appeared in the field of vision, falling from the sky, and landing on the street with the most rebels. Boom. The earth shook. The rocket launcher was powerful enough, but compared with this missile, it was still a lot worse. With the explosion point as a center, all the ruins and buildings around were destroyed. I don't know how many rebel soldiers died in the explosion. Chapter 198 Underestimating Country Z. Before the first wave of explosions subsided, another missile fell from the sky. Boom. The explosion waves intertwined and spread outward along the street. Looking down from the sky, you can see a clear impact circle that spreads outward quickly. Jiang Wu and others hurriedly hid in the bomb craters to avoid it. Boom boom boom. Several more missiles landed. Leng Feng saw through the drone that the surrounding area was already in a mess. The thousands of rebel soldiers before had been bombed to pieces, and at least more than half of them died in the bombing. Those rebel soldiers were completely scared and stupid. They were still holding axes and shooting randomly. They had never experienced this level of battle. A missile came down and destroyed the world. It was like 2 barbarians were fighting with sticks, and suddenly someone came with a Gatling machine gun. It was impossible to resist. They retreated. Leng Feng said. The rebels were also afraid of death. Facing such an attack, not retreating would really be seeking death. Soon, 2 helicopters appeared, one of which was a military helicopter. It noticed the soldiers gathering again below, and machine gun bullets swept over. Then several airborne rockets fell from the sky, and it was quiet in an instant. Another rescue helicopter landed slowly. Jiang Wu and others hurriedly sent Chen Jinsheng and Zhou Yang to the helicopter. Leng Feng also helped to send another damaged mecha to the truck. But there were still broken bodies of the geological team members left. These bastards. Jiang Wu cursed, and with red eyes he cleaned up the bodies on the ground. Even if they have to die, they must be buried on the land of the motherland and return to their hometown. In the command center, Tozin looked at the video sent back by the reconnaissance plane, his face pale, and murmured, "How could this happen? Everything was as planned." Under the coverage of the rocket launcher, one mecha was damaged, and one mecha was far away from the center of the explosion and was saved. This result is simply perfect. Although Jiang Wu and others arrived, Tozin didn't care. The Blackwater people were about to enter the city. With the advantage in numbers, it was easy to kill Jiang Wu and others, and take away the mecha. But unexpectedly, the retreating rebels also arrived. Then Chen Jinsheng's mecha actually changed a driver and restarted. What's more terrible is that the warship far away in the port also took action and fired missiles as soon as it came up. They are directly intervening in the civil war of other countries. Tozin screamed. According to his idea, the warship should at least ask for instructions from the superiors before deciding whether to attack. After all, this is the territory of another country. By the time the warship has finished asking for instructions, the Blackwater people may have already taken the mecha away. But who would have thought that the warship didn't even ask for instructions and opened fire directly? Bradley beside him sighed and said, "This is no longer the Z country we remembered. In our impression, Z country would be cautious about international influence and act cautiously, but now Z country is truly powerful." When they said they wanted to evacuate their citizens, several warships came over. When they said someone was trapped, they directly sent out mechas. When their own people were trapped by the rebels, they directly launched missiles. "You misjudged Z country," Bradley said. Tozin misjudged the determination of Z country, which led to the current failure. Patting Tozin on the shoulder, Bradley said, "Give up. You have seen the determination of Z country. 3 missile destroyers are useless unless you pull our aircraft carrier fleet over. How can we grab mechas, helicopters, ground troops, armored vehicles at this time? All useless. No matter how many you come, a few missiles will destroy them all." Tozin nodded dejectedly and said, "Let them withdraw." In the ruins, Leng Feng lifted the damaged number 2 mecha onto the truck and suddenly grabbed 2 battery compartments. "Captain Jiang, this revenge must be avenged," Leng Feng said coldly. His compatriots died tragically, and it was definitely not the rebels who did it. The real culprit was someone else. Jiang Wu was shocked and asked quickly, "Leng Feng, what are you going to do?" Leng Feng said, "I'm just doing what I should do, Captain Jiang." The drone just recorded the firing route of the rocket launcher. It is estimated that their rocket launcher base is 50 kilometers to the northeast. I plan to go there and take revenge. Are you alone? Jiang Wu shook his head quickly and said, "No, it's too dangerous for you to go alone." Leng Feng ignored him and said in a deep voice, "Since they did it, they must pay the price. Our compatriots cannot die in vain." As he said that, Leng Feng grabbed the battery compartment and soared into the sky. "Leng Feng, you bastard." Jiang Wu was so angry that he jumped up and down and quickly contacted the warship to report the situation. Leng Feng found his sword and shield, which were still sharp, and then accelerated the thrusters and quickly searched to the northeast. In an instant, Leng Feng arrived outside the city. During the drone's reconnaissance, an armored convoy was suddenly discovered. 8 armored vehicles. Mamba armored vehicles. Leng Feng's eyes narrowed. They were made in China. It was too abnormal for a team of people from China to appear in the Republic of Syria. And it was hard to say whether they were from China. Tozin was ready to give the order to retreat, but suddenly he found that the intact mechas had taken the initiative to leave the city and fly towards them, and happened to collide with the Blackwater team. Tozin could hardly believe his eyes. He never thought that things would take such a turn. "Quick, let Blackwater attack, and then everyone else go to support me," Tozin hurriedly ordered. Without Tozin's order, the commander in the convoy also stared at the mechas that appeared above his head. The machine gunner on top of the armored vehicle immediately opened fire, and the bullets swept over and hit the mechas with a clang. Leng Feng snorted coldly and fell down. Leng Feng, who fell from the sky, grabbed the sword with both hands and stabbed it fiercely from the top of the armored vehicle. Under inertia, the armored vehicle in motion seemed to be ripped open and was directly split in half. Leng Feng did not stop the attack and rushed out like lightning with the giant sword in front of him and swept it in a circle. With a snap, the top of an armored vehicle was directly cut open, and the machine gunner who stood up straight was cut in half by the giant sword. Leng Feng reached out and grabbed a soldier, shouting, "Who are you?" The soldier was so scared that he almost peed and screamed, "I don't know anything." Leng Feng pinched his 5 fingers, and the flesh and blood of the human body could not withstand the terrifying power of the mecha, and his neck was directly squeezed into a pulp. "Tell me, who are you?" Leng Feng grabbed another soldier. "We are from Blackwater." The soldier was scared, and his face turned pale, and he screamed, "Blackwater? The world's largest mercenary security company." Leng Feng's face changed slightly, but behind Blackwater stood the United States. "No wonder you have rocket launchers." Leng Feng gritted his teeth and said to himself, "Blackwater is just a security company. At most, they have some light military equipment, such as ordinary armored vehicles and helicopters. They don't have rocket launchers, and they dare not have them. And now, they actually use rocket launchers for blanket bombing. It is conceivable where these rocket launchers come from. Die." Leng Feng's eyes sprayed with murderous intent, and he rushed towards the bullets. Chapter 199 Enthusiastic Citizens. In the absence of heavy weapons, and facing a group of infantry, the mecha is simply invincible. Invulnerable to swords and guns, with infinite strength, the giant sword in his hand is like the scythe of the god of death, and it can take the lives of several people with a swing. Leng Feng found that the giant sword in his hand was simply too easy to use, even more convenient than thermal weapons. The mecha moved quickly, and the giant sword swept out. No matter what armored vehicle, it was all like paper. In just 2 minutes, Leng Feng abandoned the armored vehicle that had become a ruin, and the corpses on the ground jumped into the air and continued to move forward. The target is still ahead. 50 kilometers. Leng Feng arrived after exhausting the power of a battery compartment. Fortunately, Leng Feng still carried 2 battery compartments, which were enough for fighting. After replacing the battery compartment, Leng Feng began to land. Several small missiles suddenly appeared in the woods below, whistling towards Leng Feng. Leng Feng's thrusters suddenly shut down, and the mecha fell down like a meteor. Several missiles also turned at a large angle and chased after him. The moment it landed, the mecha started the thrusters again and rushed forward quickly. Boom boom boom. Several missiles that were chasing it had no time to maneuver and hit the ground, and the shock wave of the explosion rushed straight into the sky. Leng Feng had already seen his target. There was a simple camp between the trees in front, and under the trees, there were 5 M270 rocket launchers. At the same time, there were 2 self-propelled artillery. There was even a tank. At this time, the tank had turned the turret and aimed at Leng Feng. With a gunshot, the tank fired. The mecha in the process suddenly jumped up, and with the help of the thrusters, it instantly rose more than 10 meters. With such a simple action, it had avoided the tank shells. The mecha is not like any other weapon, like a tank or a fighter. Sometimes it is too late to change direction when it wants to, and it is too late to react. But the mecha is different. With the assistance of artificial intelligence, it can move from the ground to the sky, from the sky to the ground, as flexible as a human, and can move as it wants. The mecha leaped high, and with the help of the thrusters, it drew a gliding curve in the air. Then the thrusters burst out with full force, bursting out with incredible speed, holding the sword with both hands, slashing down swiftly. With a puff, the barrel of the tank was actually cut off by Leng Feng's sword. This tank was destroyed just like that. Leng Feng landed on the tank turret, holding a huge sword, looking coldly at the people in the camp. There were quite a few people in the entire simple camp, as many as 100 people, and at this time they were all staring blankly at Leng Feng, who fell from the sky, not knowing how to react. In the command center, Tozin's forehead was covered with cold sweat. He didn't expect that the mecha would find their camp so quickly, and as soon as they met, they killed their tanks. But even if the tanks were not killed, with the combat effectiveness of the mecha, as long as they got close, these weapons would be no different from scrap metal. As for the hundreds of soldiers in the camp, what could they do? Using the rifles in their hands to fight the mechas, it would be almost like sending them to death. What should we do? Tozin muttered to himself. The situation was completely out of control. The most critical factor was that the mecha was too strong. In the camp, Leng Feng began to attack. It was simply a massacre. A few minutes later, 2 military helicopters appeared one after another. They were shipborne helicopters that came to support Leng Feng. The explosion and fire in the woods quickly attracted the two helicopters. Over there, the two helicopters approached, and the pilot looked down, and was also furious. In the center of the camp, several rocket launchers and other weapons had been completely destroyed, and there were deep pits on the ground after the explosion. The mecha stood proudly in the center of the camp. The mecha, which was originally painted in desert camouflage, had turned red at this time, a gorgeous blood red. "This guy is simply a killer," a driver muttered. On the ground, Leng Feng closed his eyes, and then opened them again, and felt that the murderous aura in his body had decreased a lot. Looking up, looking at the two helicopters above his head, Leng Feng waved his hand to signal, started the thrusters, and went in the direction he came from. At the command center, looking at the mess on the screen, Tozin was so pale that he couldn't say a word. The action plan had completely failed. What should be considered now is how to deal with the aftermath. You know, this time, 16 Z country civilians were killed, and no one knew how Z country would react. At this moment, the door was suddenly pushed open, and two tall and strong soldiers walked in. "Tosinkle, come with us," a soldier said. Tozin's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly shouted, "Who are you? Why should I go with you?" The two soldiers didn't explain anything, went up and locked Tozin's shoulders directly, and dragged him out. Bradley's face changed drastically. He had a strong feeling that he would never see Tozin again in the future, and he estimated that he would soon end up like Tozin. Half an hour later, Leng Feng had returned to the port. Lin Yuan appeared, looking at the mecha that had been dyed red with blood, and couldn't help but sigh. The mecha opened, and Leng Feng walked down. Lin Yuan snorted and said, "Fortunately you are not an active soldier, otherwise, I would have shot you for acting on your own and disobeying orders." Then, Lin Yuan took 2 steps forward, patted Leng Feng on the shoulder and said, "Well done." In Lin Yuan's opinion, this incident can be completely defined as an enthusiastic citizen who saw his compatriots die tragically, got emotional for a while, snatched military mechas, ran to the enemy and killed them, and it had nothing to do with the military. "Thank you, Chief." Leng Feng saluted and said quickly, "Chief, it was Blackwater that used rocket launchers to bomb our people, and behind Blackwater." Lin Yuan suddenly interrupted Leng Feng. "I know." Lin Yuan smiled coldly and said slowly, a security company." The warship left the port and headed north along the coastline. When night fell, Leng Feng, who was resting in the cabin, suddenly felt the ship vibrate slightly. He subconsciously looked out through the porthole and saw 4 missiles disappearing in the western sky with tail flames. The west? Near the coastline? Leng Feng's mind moved, and he suddenly thought that at this location, hundreds of kilometers away, there should be the largest base of Blackwater in Continent F. Is this the counterattack from Country Z? Directly bomb your largest base. When did the country become so powerful? In the night, 4 missiles pierced the sky and arrived at the destination a few minutes later. Below was a brightly lit base. After all, this is not a standard military base. At least there is no radar. Even if there is a radar, a military base without an air defense missile system cannot withstand the attack of cruise missiles. 4 cruise missiles fell from the sky and plunged into the main building of the base. Boom. A huge explosion rose into the sky, and the entire base instantly turned into a sea of fire. Chapter 200 revealing the signal. Many people on the internet are paying attention to the evacuation of overseas Chinese. I don't know what the situation is like, but I heard there are thousands of people. It's still too chaotic abroad, with wars all the time. It's better to be in China. That's right. Thank God for letting me be born in Country Z. Watching the news about the war, I deeply realized how lucky it is to be born in such a powerful country. There is news. CCTV has released the latest progress, saying that everyone has been evacuated safely, and the warships carrying out the evacuation mission are returning. Sprinkle flowers and blessings. Just when everyone was breathing a sigh of relief, someone suddenly exposed a video that quickly topped the hot list. This was a video posted by a woman asking for help. "My husband also went to the Republic of Syria 2 months ago to do geological exploration. Before this evacuation, he called me and said that the embassy had arranged for them. But until now, I haven't received his call. I asked the embassy, but they couldn't explain it clearly. I thought, if he is fine and on the warship returning home, he should at least call me to report his safety. The internet says that everyone has returned, so I want to ask, where is my husband? Our child is only 5 months old. I don't want him to grow up without a father. I just want to know whether my husband is alive or dead. This video quickly exceeded 10 million views and became a hot topic. It was reprinted by many media and received more and more attention. Didn't they say that everyone has returned? If they have returned, they will definitely call to report their safety. A relative I know has also called back. I hope he is safe, but this is too abnormal. It is really possible. If someone really died, why didn't the country say it? What is there to hide about such a thing? Related videos have attracted more and more questions. At the press conference of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that day, a reporter asked whether all people had been evacuated safely and whether the news on the internet that the geological exploration employees had not yet reported their safety was true. Spokesperson Zhou Yang, who was originally smiling and answering everyone's questions and even making a few jokes, suddenly put away his smile and his expression became extremely serious. The atmosphere at the scene seemed to freeze instantly. The reporter who asked the question also shuddered inexplicably and suddenly felt that he seemed to have caused a big mess. Many reporters looked at each other, their breathing became rapid, and they felt that something big was about to happen. Zhou Yang seemed to be waiting for something and even pressed his ears. Many reporters instantly guessed that Zhou Yang might be wearing a headset and waiting for instructions from above. After a full minute, when everyone thought Zhou Yang would not answer this question, Zhou Yang suddenly said, "Unfortunately, an accident occurred during the evacuation operation. A geological team of 17 people was detained by the rebels. When we sent out rescue forces, fierce exchanges of fire broke out. In the end, under several rounds of rocket attacks, one of our brave soldiers died, one soldier was seriously injured, and 16 of the 17 compatriots in the geological team were killed." Boom. The ceiling of the entire press conference hall seemed to be lifted up, and all the reporters were staring with wide eyes, frightened to death. Fierce exchanges of fire, several rounds of rocket attacks. 2 soldiers died and 1 was seriously injured, and only 1 person survived from the 17-person geological team. This is a big deal. A reporter immediately raised his hand and asked, "Who fired the rocket?" Many reporters were also whispering, "Rocket launchers. Do the government forces of the Republic of Syria have rocket launchers? How could they have them? The rebels can't have them either. At most, they have RPGs. How could they have heavy weapons like rocket launchers? And they launched several rounds of attacks. Oh my god, this is a premeditated attack." Zhou Yang waved his hand, signaling everyone to be quiet. He said in a very serious tone, "Here, on behalf of the government, I warn the people who launched this attack that the blood of our compatriots will not be shed in vain. Blood debts can only be repaid with blood. Any forces and countries that attempt to challenge Country Z will be met with the most powerful counterattack from Country Z. Finally, I have one more thing to say, that is, don't say I didn't warn you." After saying that, Zhou Yang directly announced the end of the press conference and turned away. The reporters present felt a tingling sensation on their scalps and trembling all over. Zhou Yang had never said such harsh words before. Blood debts can only be repaid with blood, which means that the country already knows who the attackers are. The key is the phrase "don't say I didn't warn you." This phrase is not an ordinary phrase. The news spread to the internet and caused an uproar. 17 people died tragically. This is no small matter. Who on earth is this person? How dare he kill our people? You think he already has rocket launchers? How can he be an ordinary person? The key is that the country has even said that it is not necessary to say that it was not warned. It is really angry. Something big is going to happen. Nuclear base. Zhou Yang also paid attention to this matter and made a special phone call to inquire. How is Chen Jinsheng? Zhou Yang still has some impression of this Chen Jinsheng. Li Xianshu on the other end of the phone sighed and said, "The spine is damaged. He has undergone surgery. Normal life should not be a problem, but it should be impossible to get on the mecha again." Zhou Yang also sighed and said, "Is it done by the United States?" "I think so." Li Xianshu nodded and said, "It's our fault. We thought that sending out mechas would be safer to reduce casualties. Who would have thought that we would become their target? I have to say that they are really fighting hard to get the mechas. Zhou Yang didn't know what to say. He believed that the country would also respond. However, this Blackwater company should be completely finished. At this time, Li Xianshu asked, by the way, how is the progress over there? Zhou Yang said, the progress is very fast. The main body of the fusion device is almost completed. It is expected that the first ignition can be carried out on April 1st. April 1st. Li Xianshu was shocked and said, so soon, and why choose this day? Isn't it April Fool's Day? Zhou Yang smiled and said, for other countries, it is not April Fool's Day, but Nightmare Day. Yes. Li Xianshu said, you mean, the main structure has been completed, can you report it? Zhou Yang was stunned. News reports, is this a signal that the country wants to reveal to the outside world? What's wrong with that? You can arrange it. Zhou Yang hung up the phone. In front of Zhou Yang, in the largest foundation pit of the base, the fusion device with a diameter of 30 meters has been completed, and hundreds of engineers are surrounding the fusion device to install it. The installation process is very complicated, and the requirements for precision are extremely high. Even the slightest error cannot occur. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.